Give me big old buckets of butterbeer. Give me big old barrels of butterbeer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butterbeer.
Welcome to the Three Broomsticks. We invite you to pull up a chair, grab a butterbeer, and settle in for a hearty discussion about Harry Potter. I'm Sam Williams.
I'm Aurelia Lieb.
And I'm Sierra Obermark, and today we are joined by special guest, Alice.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello. So, Alice, we would love to know, and so would our listeners, what your kind of Harry Potter stats are. So, what is your Hogwarts house, first of all?
Definitely Hufflepuff. Secondary Slytherin.
Nice.
That's a good combo.
Yes, manipulating you for your own good.
Go to sleep.
I love it.
Eat some
If you're
healthy
skilled
food.
at that, can you convince my children to?
Oh, kids are special.
Yeah, they are. All right. And then, what would your how did you come to be a fan of Harry Potter? What was your journey here?
I've always imagined being a witch ever since I was a little kid and saw The Wizard of Oz. So when my friend told me there was a children's series about wizards, I was really excited. I didn't start reading until the third book had just come out, but then I got really obsessed. And the thing I'm doing now is I'm actually learning to read tactile Braille by reading The Sorcerer's Stone in Braille.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool.
That is so cool.
Do all all 7 books exist in Braille, or is it just the first one? Do you know?
I think they do.
No, it's all 7.
I am
a
really slow reader, so I don't know if I'm going to make it before I die.
Well,
that's
that
really
is
cool.
super cool. Well, so then what is your favorite book and who's your favorite character? Maybe that'll tell us a little bit more about you.
I honestly love the 4th book, even though editorially speaking, it's not that tight. I just love the Triwizard Tournament and the sequence of crazy challenges. And my favorite character is Luna.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah, because she's so fun.
It's very rare that we get a person whose favorite book doesn't include their favorite character. That's a neat little addition to your appearance on the podcast.
That was where I was currently stuck on. I was like, oh. And now
That's
I
awesome.
sort of wonder what the Triwizard Tournament would be like through Luna's eyes.
Probably super fascinating for the second and third tasks, and I'm sure that there is a whole slew of people who would go to Luna for commentary once the second task was super boring because you're just looking at a lake. And so she's probably explaining all about, how all of these different made-up magical creatures are absolutely affecting Harry, and the reason why he grew gills is because he's friends with a Snorkelpass Blagablag, and all that sort of stuff. So.
That sounds like a fun fanfic for sure.
Neat. Very neat. Well, it's great to have you, Alice. Thank you for being on the pod with us today.
Oh, thank all of you.
And today, speaking of, for episode number 67, sorry, TikTok trend, we've gathered to discuss the 21st chapter of the Harry Potter series at Flourish Blotts, which is in Chamber of Secrets, chapter 4. We encourage you to read the chapter before listening, but of course, Aurelia,
we are not your mom.
Correct, we are not. We do have some recommended
You
reading.
sound so enthused that we ask you that every time.
And you're not even Molly, huh?
I'm sorry, it's all my fault.
Aurelia's like, why am I stuck with this?
It's
How did I
me. It was
end up
my
here?
fault.
I was like,
Because
anyway.
I loved it.
I was like, the one catchphrase I take away from this podcast is reminding people
I'm
of
not
the
your mom.
parents.
We do have a couple of other recommended readings. There's The Importance of Borgin and Burkes by Zarathustra, which we'll provide the web link for. And then we've got 2 Irvin written documents as well. The Foreshadowing of Borgin and Burkes, and Borgin and Burke and the Half-Blood Prince. So go ahead and check those out. They'll be in the show notes. We'll have them linked for you when the episode comes out.
And a huge thanks over to Lori Young
Woo!
on our Patreon, who bought us this round of drinks at the pub.
Thank you. It's very, very helpful. Anyways, sorry.
And tasty.
Yes, and very tasty. If you, dear listener, would like to buy us a round at the pub, please head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks. That's with the numeral 3 to sign up. You can listen to Ev and Oreo discuss Britishisms. What we Americans just don't know aren't magical. Or you can take a peek into fan fiction, what we've written, what we've read. We would really appreciate your help in keeping the lights on at the 3 Broomsticks so that we can talk about Harry Potter for a long time to come.
Let us offer a toast to the comments on episode 64. The episode was about disbelieved deaths in Harry Potter. We raise our glass to commenter Irene G., who said, I am in the camp that Dumbledore is dead. The fact may be sad, but it's true. The man was in excruciating pain from the ring curse, and he just came back to Hogwarts after a terrible ordeal in the cave just to find the dark mark over the crenellated ramparts.
Crenellated.
Thank you. And he just came back to Hogwarts after a terrible ordeal in the cave just to find the dark mark over the crenellated ramparts. Dumbledore was ready to meet death as an old friend, and Snape took care of it while protecting Draco's still unblemished soul. Anyone who wants to bring Dumbledore back from the dead will cheapen the loss dedicated to readers felt as they saw him falling off the astronomy tower. I think this is a fabulous point. I think to sort of marvel it up where death kind of doesn't matter until it does, it would really cheapen the sacrifice. And also, like, what's Dumbledore doing in King's Cross after Harry, quote-unquote, dies? Like, he's already got one less than a month to live, essentially. Like, there's no point in Dumbledore not being dead.
Yeah. I know that at the time, I definitely was in the group of people looking for, well, is there a way that he got out of this? Looking at the details. Well, does the killing curse really blast you backwards? No. Does it? It just causes you to crumple. Well, he was blasted backwards and out of the window. Just really nitpicking all of those tiny details and looking for any potential way that he was still alive. And I had all these theories about where he had, cast something on himself before his wand was taken away, or he and Snape had set something up ahead of time. And so then when Snape went to cast the curse, because he didn't really mean it, then it didn't fully kill him and he was able to be in, some suspended state. I came up with all sorts of things, and I was on all the, I was chatting with all my friends and not necessarily message boards, but I was definitely reading all the different conspiracies. And so I really didn't want him to be dead, and I really thought that, he's so powerful, there's got to be a way that he's made it out of this. However, once Deathly Hallows begins and we have no mention of him potentially returning, no hints, nothing, I was like, man, he really is dead. Yeah. And I completely agree with Irene here that it would cheapen his loss. Yeah. For sure. I think that it's especially having the entire funeral really is so impactful for so many of those students who still didn't really believe that anything bad could happen, and they were
At
still living
Hogwarts.
in this bubble, and it really broke through and was like, no,
And it's-
all of this is going to change, and it's going to be bad.
It's so vitally important for Harry's character to be like, okay, everybody that has stood in Voldemort's way is, is gone. And he's sort of, he's outgrown Dumbledore's as his father figure at that point. He's ready for the journey on his own. He's outgrown Sirius as his father figure. The only father figure that he's not outgrown is Hagrid, who will, I'm sure, go on to be part of Harry's parenting journey. But that's what Hagrid's purpose really is. It's not the let loose and learn to relax, have fun seriousness, and it's not the plan and double plan and move forward and always be good. Harry's at that point with both of those characters when they go. It's really, of those three father figures, it's really just Hagrid that's up behind for him, and I think he still needs that fatherly presence. Versus for Dumbledore, thematically, he doesn't need it. So in all aspects, right? Yeah. Plot-wise, thematically, it doesn't make any sense to have Dumbledore come back. I felt the same way about Han Solo after The Force Awakens. When there were all of these conspiracy theories of, like, Kylo's actually undercover, and he set this up with Han so that they could infiltrate more and all of this sort of stuff. And I was like, no. The point of that scene is to have Han, who's always run away from everything that's been a connection to him, finally be there and say, I'm going to help, I'm here to stay, and then to have that be his demise.
Exactly. Yeah, that is just, it's a brutal comparison. Yeah. Right there. Because, you have Snape, and who has planned something with Dumbledore, but it still results in that death.
Yeah.
And who's really reluctant to make this decision and to follow through on what he's agreed upon. And then you have, Kylo, who is reluctant and isn't 100% sure in that moment that this is the choice that he's making, but he makes that choice selfishly, instead of Snape, who is making that choice unselfishly. Yeah. And so I think that it also would really take away from Snape's character as well. We can go down the line of the whole, is Snape fully redeemed, and et cetera, by
that's
this action, and
not a raise
that's
the toast section.
Completely separate. That's a completely separate thing. But just on like a base level of, if Dumbledore were then to come back and it turns out it was this whole thing that he and Snape put together, I think that really also takes away from Snape's character and Snape's development and his impact on everyone else and cementing himself inside Voldemort's inner circle and all the way to make it all the way to the end.
Yeah.
To be able to fully pass along the information that Harry needs.
Wow. So
I think just for basically anybody who is impacted by Dumbledore's death, I think it is crucial in that time for them to be impacted the way that they are.
Totally.
All the people crying at the funeral and all the people seeing Hagrid and Grop together, that's also huge as well, kind of setting them apart from, the kind of like the light versus like more accepting. And then also, the darker wizards who, they might have giants, but they're definitely not sitting next to them at a funeral. And I think it really just sets up so much to be able to move forward into adulthood for all of those students. And it's just really key. And I love that Dumbledore and Harry both meet death as an old friend, essentially, at that point. I think that it's very nice that they don't go separate ways as the three brothers do. Yeah. I think it is a nice kind of differentiation. And it really, I think it puts Harry on a little bit of Dumbledore's level, that they both reach that by by that point in their lives, and Harry obviously reaches it so much earlier, but is able to continue on, and you kind of know that by the end of Harry's life as well, he will once again do this because he's already prepared. So I think it's nice, and I really like the idea that when Harry is really ready at the end, that Dumbledore is there again to go with him on the train, which would be a really sweet little moment. I don't know that I don't know that I need that, but in my headcanon, I like that.
Me too. All right, well, thank you, Irene G, so much for this comment. It was a great little thing to talk about. And on to our chapter summary. Chapter summary. Okay, here we go. Brittany. Are we ready? Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Brittany, are you good? Are you sure you're good? Okay, excellent. Today's chapter summary is brought to you by moi. Harry's at the Burrow, and it's completely different, which, while filled with the actions of the chaotic, is still filled with the actions of good, unlike the lawful evil Petunia and Vernon doll out at number 4, Privet Drive. Case in point, number 4 equals malnourishment. The Burrow equals forced fourth helpings at every meal. Number 4 equals make no noise and don't exist. The Burrow equals the ghoul in the attic, howling and dropping pipes whenever he felt things were getting too quiet. Not to mention the small explosions from Fred and George's bedrooms that were considered perfectly normal. Ginny, Harry's future romantic and life partner, cannot stand the sight of him, meaning she's so enraptured with him that she runs out of the room because she's so embarrassed to even talk to him. But don't worry, Ginny. Soon you'll be swallowing your embarrassment and spitting sick lines of sweet nothings. At number 4, people love to not talk to Harry. At the Burrow, Arthur Weasley is simply fascinated with Harry's entirely boring muggle life. And most heartbreakingly, as Harry puts it, what Harry found most unusual about life at Ron's, however, wasn't the talking mirror or the clanking ghoul. It was the fact that everybody there seemed to like him. And now that we've cleared the dust from our eyes, it's time for some shopping. Cruelly, McGonagall has sent a list of long things. Oh, gosh. Cruelly, McGonagall has sent a long list of things the Weasley can't afford. Laughing as she strokes her pile of money reserved for if Harry needs a new Nimbus 2001 this year. Meanwhile, Ginny's put her elbow in the butter dish. Fred has correctly guessed the new DA teacher is a fan of Lockhart. A fan of Lockhart, indeed. And Percy, showing his anti-family prejudice, nearly kills the molting feather duster known as Errol. Hermione casually asks to meet up and hang out at Diagon Alley, and that's enough for Molly. Off they go next Wednesday, but back in 1992. As Fred waxes poetic about their poverty predicament, Harry feels awkward, and instead of hiring Mr. Weasley to be his Child Protective Services rep, he also pets his pile of galleons. But it's fine. The wizarding cosmic karma is at it again. Harry goes diagonally off of Diagon Alley, which you must assume the Floo powder power knew he was going to Diagon Alley in the first place, and said with a very sort of English teacher attitude, "No, you must speak properly," and sent him to the wrong place out of spite. Welcome to Borgin Burkes. It's a real sketchy place with a horrid smell, with two people who are rich as Harry, and they frighten Borgin with intimidation and talk of dark artifacts with some foreshadowing of the Half-Blood Prince and some lambastic of Draco's poor grades as compared to Hermione. The Malfoys finally leave. Anyways, that's not at all how Jurassic Park goes, and apologies to John Williams. So once the Malfoys leave, so does Harry, who Hagrid finds and saves, because Hagrid is in Knockturn Alley trying to buy something that probably everybody should have, which would be the flesh-eating slug repellent. Anyways, and off Harry goes to become more famous. He shows up, teeth out for the cameras, to join Gilderoy in a celebration of the most important teacher-student duo the castle has ever seen. He imperiouses Arthur into a fistfight with Lucius. He senses the Horcrux, and he promptly gives the Horcrux to Ginny to see if she'd ever date a Horcrux later on. And then he whooshes out of there, cackling as he throws money into random fireplaces so the Weasleys can see how rich he is. And then he summons his inner Horcrux to perhaps slither around Errol that night and swallow Errol whole. End of chapter.
That got wild towards
wow.
the end.
I was so on, and then all of a sudden, it just went. Well, it went diagonally through diagonal.
Correct.
It was almost
We
like
ended
a
up in the
musical
Knockturn
broke
of
out.
chapter summaries.
It's that meme of that car taking a very last minute exit.
Yes.
Just yeah, we're hey, Sam wrote an accurate one. Wait a second.
I could just
boy.
listen to you summarize chapters all day.
Mm-hmm. It'd be a really
Right.
confusing book if you hadn't read before, though.
Yes.
Mhm.
I'd know nothing afterwards, but I would have had fun during the way. I'd be like, I could not tell you what this book is actually about, but it was funny when Sam talked about it.
It's not about the comprehension. It's about the fun we had.
Indeed.
Which is kind of how Ron lives his entire existence, but it's fine. Speaking of Ron, on to the main discussion and his house, the Burrow.
So I've never been to a stone pigsty, and I have to say when I heard that phrase as Harry's glimpse of the burrow, I had no idea what that might look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen where people have pigs, but
Right,
it's
right.
usually like a little
Yeah.
fenced-in yard. It's not usually a house.
Well, and I think it's the bottom layer that's the stone pig yard, that the house, the rest of it is built off of wood and all the stuff that they kind of throw together. But it seems like, at some point the Weasleys had this piece of land where it used to be a stone pigsty, and they built the house off of those foundations, which seem shaky at best, because the stone pigsties, as you're pointing out, are a much older form. And used by people who they've been there for years and years and hundreds of years, even in some points. So it seems to be an ancient feature of the house.
The burrow is
that's
just
neat.
fascinating, and how it's like I kind of want to see how it evolves, like almost like like a time lapse of this is its
That'd be
initial
cool.
stage, and then like how it sort of just grew as the family grew, I assume.
Yeah, with each room sort of getting. And it's got to be frustrating to Ron that they were like, oh my gosh, a sixth son, off to the attic, and then Ginny comes out and they're like, second floor, brand new bedroom.
Yeah. It all adds to Ron's grudge.
Yeah.
You'd think they would have magical sex selection.
It turns out they can't gene edit yet.
Do you think they know what genes are?
No. I mean, a pair, some of the Muggle-born ones certainly know what,
Oh yeah.
genetics are and actual genes, and then the new wizarding kids will know what actual pair of genes are, but not genes with a G, genes with a J.
I'm not even sure I would give them jeans as in the trousers. I remember the description of how the wizards try to dress as muggles for Alice's
That's why I said
favorite
that
book.
the new wizarding kids know, because they seem to be down with the Muggle wear, and it's only that one in Goblet of Fire that likes the way the breeze affects him that won't put on a pair of jeans.
The older generation's just out of it.
Sierra's favorite character in the whole series.
What?
I
Is
think
that Archie?
Yeah, Archie.
is his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sierra's favorite character.
Oh.
It's Pigwidgeon first, and then Archie.
Hell yeah.
Very strange mix. Anyways,
But
Sierra,
sort of similar energy.
yeah, absolutely. Pigwidgeon and Archie, there for sure. Same energy, different body. Sierra, you had a note here about the burrow.
Yes. Okay, so the burrow seems especially magical, probably because of all the additions and whatnot. So do we think that this is because they don't have money to fix things, so they have to use magic? Or are other wizarding houses just as magical, but we just don't see them? Or, my kind of last thought on this is, could it potentially just be the sheer number of witches and wizards who live in the house? All of their kind of radiant magic, rubs off on the house itself.
And when you say magical, do you mean like the ghoul in the attic? Or do you mean the way that the rooms don't seem to be physically attached very well?
I think like everything, just the whole, how everything's put together, the fact that they have a ghoul and they've got the gnomes and they've got, just, I mean, all the magic like going on inside, which is all very clearly like Molly powered, but, just in like all the other stuff as well. I mean, just kind of everything. It just feels like a magical place almost on the scale of like Hogwarts.
I mean, it seems like the ghoul is something a lot of wizarding houses would throw out, but the Weasleys are kinder to creatures, except for like the gnomes. And so there's like a lot of magical pest removals that I would guess like you don't see any of this at the Malfoy Manor, right? Which is a very clean and kempt spot, even though they don't have Dobby anymore. Plus, when we get to the Lovegoods, it's like kind of magical, but only in terms of like artifacts. And when we're at Newt Scamander's place, it's not really magical except for his giant room in the basement. So I think that sort of like old dusty sort of farmhouse but magical farmhouse system seems to be a very specifically Weasley attitude towards their living circumstances.
I like that the idea that the magic adapts to, or the magicalness of it adapts to the owners / the like people who live there. And I think arguably they're too nice to the gnomes as well, because, Fred and George
They're
even say, like,
back.
they seem to enjoy it, they come back, like, they like living here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I must imagine you could, like, kill them. Like, there must be harsher ways to treat a gnome if they're a known pest.
Yeah.
Right.
I like the idea of a house becoming like its residence. It gives a reason for why Grimmauld Place is so creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like the magic affects the house situation as, like, people do their pets as well. You know how, like, pets and people start to look a lot more like each other as they grow older and such.
Sure.
It's kind of like not the ambient, but, like, the magic that just kind of exudes off a person starts to become. It just is a real shame that we didn't get to see Tonks in our household as a fully fledged adult, because it would be interesting to see what a metamorph Margus looks like. But she and Lupin and a lot of other people are dead, so.
Well, thank you for reminding us of that.
Just to put it bluntly,
are correct. You're right. You're welcome. Anyways.
There's a lot going on magic-wise in this house. Among other things, as Sam's already touched upon in his summary, we hear explosions from Fred and George's room, and everyone seems to just be fine with that. And I'm like, I think as we all do as we reread these chapters as we get older, every time you take something differently away from it, I'm like, at the age now where I'm like, should we not have, like, been more concerned about this? Like, why was everyone like, yeah, explosions, whatever?
It's because they have 7 kids, so they figure, some of them only have to survive.
Okay.
I know, that's why Molly's not that bent out of shape when Fred dies.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, gosh.
I'm worried that Alice and Sam seem to be on the same wavelength. Like, where are we going with this? Sierra, and I need to be extra nice around here, I think.
I know. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think in another episode, I'm pretty sure from Goblet, like Ron mentions that they've heard, more bangs and things coming from Fred and George's room. And, we thought they just liked the noise. So, like, I guess this is so common that, no, there's, like, no reason to be concerned. Also, I feel like if something were really wrong, like, maybe the silence would be, like, if there's no big noises coming from their room, then you know that something's wrong.
No,
it's
absolutely.
quiet. It's quiet.
And you wouldn't expect Molly to be going into their room to clean. There's too many kids. She would just leave it alone.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of like everybody needs to fend for themselves, and Fred and George seem very highly independent, so there's not that much checking in. I bet like we know early on that Fred and George have some, sort of Tom Riddle level power when they're young, because Fred or George turns Ron's Teddy into a spider. Bear. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's, very young, so that's wandless magic that they do specifically to torture him. So it's again, it's good that Fred dies, because then he would have just become the new Dark Lord. But, so with all that being said, in actuality, in all seriousness, to me, this just proves how much the magic tracking system in Britain is stupid. Because they, Harry gets in trouble for Dobby, and Fred and George get to do whatever they want because Molly and Arthur are fully fledged adults. This is why Ilvermorny takes
it's
wands.
Not really. Yeah, it's not really a magic tracking system, is it? It's a tracking system to keep an eye on kids who don't have magical parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or to see how close to Muggle. It seems like they're able to also see how close proximity-wise the magic is done to a Muggle, right? That's like a big deal in Order of the Phoenix, is that it's really close to Dudley. So it's really stupid, and I think I really like Ilvermorny's system of just being like, you guys aren't fully qualified wizards and witches yet, so we're going to take your wands during the summer. Which would be bad for Harry. He'd be dead if that was the case. But otherwise, if you're not a fugitive from the Dark Lord, it's fine. You'll be okay.
I like, though, that what you pointed out here, I think bears noting, is like Fred and George are very independent compared to someone like Ron, who probably actually wants more love and attention from his parents. Whereas Fred and George are like, nope, we get it. We're in the middle of this wild family. Some of our older siblings have, started careers and jobs, and then we're very successful in their school career. And we'll just figure out our own way, and we set our own boundaries, and we adhere to our own sort of thing.
Well, it's the fantasy of being a twin, that you have your own universe with your other twin, and you don't need anyone else.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. And we don't know what Charlie and Bill were like as kids, right? It might be that one of them was even wilder than Fred and George, so this doesn't seem like anything. Like Charlie might have had, a la Hagrid, literal dragons in his bedroom.
He would probably have tried to befriend the ghoul, and we have already talked about, the Burrow is clearly a place where, creatures and animals are about and tolerated and accepted. So
sure, maybe they have it because it followed him home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they're like, oh, fine, Charlie befriended a ghoul. We have a ghoul now, whatever.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Also, we have young twins that are really attention grabbing, and we need to keep their eyes on it. So yeah, a ghoul seems fine.
Ghoul, can you babysit for us? Thumbs up. All right, thanks, Ghoul. Nice. That's awesome. Going in the opposite direction, we've got quite a heart-wrenching line here.
Yes, the what Harry found most unusual about life at Ron's, however, wasn't the talking mirror or the clanking ghoul. It was the fact that everyone there seemed to like him.
It's terrible. I mean, it's great, but terrible.
Yeah. Not even at Hogwarts does he get this kind of treatment, because, what with Snape and Malfoy around and whatnot, like, this is the only place he's ever been where everybody likes him.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
I hope that Harry spends as much time at the Burrow as an adult as possible, because it seems like, I know Hogwarts was like his home, and then the Burrow is like a second home, is kind of the way that a lot of people read the text for the 7 books. But it certainly is like, this is really what home should be, and then school is school.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Although, do you think that all of the Weasley kids feel the same way? Do they feel like everyone seems to like them at home? Or does Percy feel like maybe that people don't like him?
I think Percy certainly feels bullied by Fred and George. But that's not, atypical for sibling behavior, especially that big of a family. I think he definitely feels really beloved by Molly, and he looks up to his dad because he ends up going to the ministry. It's afterwards, right, that he's like, I've done everything that Molly told me to do, and I'm doing all the things that Dad never did, and I don't understand why people don't like me anymore. But I think he's comfortable in the house because he's strutting around. He's able to brag. He feels comfortable kind of showing off in the household. At this point in time, I think the one that a lot of people point to, and this is all sort of headcanon and not so much text, is Charlie. And a lot of people are like, oh, like, did Charlie not feel accepted at home? Did Charlie not feel like, is Charlie potentially not straight? Is that one of your LGBTQI plus characters? And so it didn't feel accepted, and that's why he left. And again, all of that speculation, none of that tracks with what we've actually got. But that's the one character that people are like, maybe he didn't feel great at home.
That's possible. And I also feel like I could also see Fred and George maybe not feeling so welcome all the time just because they are so out there. And I mean, destructive, essentially. So, because they do, they leave school early and do not go back to the borough. Like, they buy their shop and live above it immediately. So that could also be maybe potentially a little bit there, but I feel like at this time, definitely all the people who are living in it currently feel very welcome. I think it's just as you kind of move them into adulthood, which I guess is also just natural for many people, that as you move into adulthood, you may, and it might not even be intentional or anything, but you feel like maybe I need to not be in my parents' house anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's definitely a feeling that the twins had a life goal, and they didn't necessarily feel like Molly especially was supportive of it, right? She wanted them to go to school, do the more traditional thing, and so they probably did feel like she was maybe standing in their way or trying to change them in a way that they weren't happy with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's quite interesting. I'm still sort of thinking along the Charlie thing as well, because Bill goes away at first as well. He's in Egypt, and neither of the brothers who live abroad seem to be visiting a lot while they live abroad. Whereas I think, Fred and George still seem to be in touch with their parents and seem to stop by or see each other. And once Bill moves back to England and works in England for Gringotts, he seems to, more regularly be in contact with his parents. But Charlie really only is there once during Goblet of Fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think for the wedding.
I think that, we see, I think this, first of all, gives more, backing to the theory that you can't apparate over large bodies of water. It's like you can't apparate over the English Channel or the Mediterranean Sea or any of that stuff, or else I think people would just be apparating a lot more. But also, it's the fact that I think people read into Charlie's character and not liking it at home just because we don't see him that much at home, versus Bill actually eventually does move back to England and visits a lot more, and we get a lot more phlegm that way. But I think I think everybody is happy growing up there, and during the Triwizard Tournament during the Quidditch World Cup is a good time to see that textually proven.
Yeah. And you know what? Mm-hmm. People sometimes move away and just, for no bad reasons or anything. Yeah. And just start lives abroad. And from personal experience, flights cost money, and I don't see my family a lot. It doesn't mean I don't like my family. There's not an opportunity to see them a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I am queer, so that speaks against that.
But I think there are some interesting marital tensions that show up in this chapter.
Yeah, I think you're describing the sort of bickering that happens between Arthur and Molly, correct?
Yeah, and I think there's something a little more than just bickering, right? It's kind of bickering when they're arguing about the car, but then it seems to get a little bit deep when Arthur is offended that Molly cautions him against going after the Malfoys. It seems like he's almost feeling like that means that she doesn't think he's man enough to take him.
Yeah, I think to me, this reads as a very, you've got one person who's risk averse and you've got one person who doesn't mind risks at all. And that's Arthur really doesn't mind risks and Molly definitely does. And that's kind of the two halves of a whole that makes a very balanced approach to their marriage. So that seems like a pretty even-keeled marriage disagreement to have, where it's not so, I don't see it so much as like, I see definitely marriage tension in terms of like that creates a tension between the two of them. But it doesn't seem like an overkill or a leading to a darker place sort of dealio.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
for sure.
odd, just like it's, it's our glimpse of Mr. Weasley feeling insecure about how someone might view him.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
In general, he seems to be the kind of person that really doesn't care if people think of him as being ridiculous, but somehow because Molly says something and he takes it as almost criticism or a lack of confidence, and then that kind of builds into the scuffle scene.
Yeah,
I do
absolutely.
wonder if the money is part of that as well, because we know that Lucius uses his money to bribe the ministry and gets things done his way, and Arthur, who tries to follow the official channels, doesn't have really the room to fight this fight, because at the end of the day, Lucius can just walk in and be like, "Here's some gold. No matter what happens, I get my way." And that must be frustrating for Arthur, who's like, I'm trying to do this the proper way. I'm trying, I can do everything I can, but I don't have the money or the funds to do this. So I don't, that's probably not helping either. And this chapter is a lot about poverty and Harry's feelings towards that as well.
Well, you've got Arthur, you've got this pride that Arthur has that you're mentioning about. And I think we see this in all of the Weasley kids. They take a lot of pride in their character. Because they don't have much else. And so it's really, once you get rid of all the money and the distractions and all that stuff, you can finally work on yourself. I forget which philosopher says that, but, and so the Weasleys are able to really focus on what matters more, which is the time spent with family and being good people. And I think Arthur wants to be seen as a good person who is capable of defending what's right. And this is sort of, really interesting because it's also Harry's first experience with family, like you were pointing out, Aurelia.
Yeah. At least since, his own parents died. And he doesn't really remember any of that.
Proper family anyways.
Yeah.
Because
for sure.
The Dursleys still are family, and that is a family dynamic that does exist. It's just like, this is kind of more how a family is supposed to function versus like, malnourishment and smacking and beating and child endangerment and all that sort of stuff.
And also, towards the other extreme of Dudley could just do whatever he wanted and everything was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas this,
which is a rough. Yeah.
Whereas this here at the Burrow, where, as we've discussed, everyone liked him, and maybe one person a bit too much. But I did have to say, like, as I was going through this, I'm sort of trying to remember how I would have been as an 11, 12-year-old person. Like, props to Harry for not, like, being mean towards Ginny because of her crush.
For sure.
I think very easily you could have been weirded out and then been mean about this situation, and he's just sort of like, yeah, you know what, I'll just don't mention it and I'll just let it slide.
Right. Well, and this has to be the first time that someone has obviously had a crush on Harry, because there's no way with Dudley at school with him that anyone would even think that he'd be like an option, or anything like that. Like no girl would be even potentially interested because of that. So like you'd think that maybe on the flip side he'd be like potentially a little too excited about it, but he's so like detached from normal human interaction that he like doesn't even know what to do. So he's just like, oh, she put her elbow in the butter again. oh, she squealed and ran out of the room. Guess I'll just continue on as normal.
I think
this is also an age, though, where a year is a really big difference.
Yes.
So,
yeah, for sure.
So I don't know if it was someone in his class, it might have felt different to him than it being a younger girl.
Well, I think that
Very true.
We see Harry really uncomfortable during book 1 and book 2. And in book 3, but more with these first two about like the level of fame and attention that he gets. And I think that this is kind of a branch of that like deep uncomfortability where he's like, all right, I don't know how to act. Like, I'm just going to continue to be me and move forward because I can't process this. And that kind of what I think happens here. It's really awesome that he's not like looking over at Ron and being like, did you see her put her elbow in the butter? That's really nice. But I think it is, like you're saying, Sierra, it's a mix of like detached from normal human interactions, especially when he's just come out of the number 4 Privet Drive. And his own, like, really not attention-seeking self, unless it's Quidditch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's
for sure.
years of learning to stay in the background and not, stand out and also just not enjoying being in the limelight. So it's like, but yeah.
Yeah, so Lockhart is really his nemesis in some ways.
Yes.
Nope, he loves him. He thinks he's the best teacher ever, and that's the most important duo, like I said in my chapter summary.
Oh, yes, definitely.
100%.
But before we get to
Lockhart,
to meeting Lockhart and his nemesis coded self, we get the Hogwarts letters that arrive at the Burrow, which make mention of Lockhart here. So, you bring up a good quote, Aurelia, about potentially some early book syndrome things here with the letters. Yeah,
and I think if you read like fan fiction from around that time, this is probably where a lot of the like, oh, Dumbledore just ignored the signs and like wasn't, is a bad guy type thing. Whereas this, the quote I pulled here is, Dumbledore already knows you're here, Harry. He doesn't miss a trick, that man. But I think we know, the letters are not actually written out and addressed by someone actually pulling out the addresses somewhere. They're self-addressing themselves. And, also we could go on a side tangent here again and debate how owls work and how they know how to find people because, Harry repeatedly sends stuff to Sirius with no address. and that worked fine. So I think, that is...
just to speak on that for a second, Aurelia, it is just wild to me that whenever the Ministry was looking for Sirius or any lost person, like if somebody wanted to go find Voldemort's soul in an Albanian forest, someone didn't just address an owl and be like, all right, and then fly behind it on a broom, just like, all right, here I come. Just rubbing your hands, getting ready for, all right.
So true.
Like, just address
you
an
have
owl.
to imagine that someone tried it, but there's probably some special owl give them the slip trick.
But then, are all owls trained to not be followed by... There's just so many questions around, if Dumbledore put a disillusionment charm on himself and then made him smell like just cloud vapor, would an owl even know he was tracking him? And, it feels like Aurora should be... Anyways, you're so right, Aurelia, when you were like, well, we could do this, but I'm going to stop Sam from doing it before he actually tangents. And then I plowed through anyways.
Well, I mean, they're all valid points because it makes no sense. But another thing that makes no sense is this moment where, Molly is like, Dumbledore knows where you are because the Hogwarts letter found you. But then that would also mean Dumbledore knew that Harry was in a cupboard under the stairs for 10 years of his life. And that, arguably he'd also knew that Harry was locked up in a room for this summer, that sort of stuff. Well,
and he seems like he does know eventually because of the way that he seems to know more in Half-Blood Prince when he says, now you have not treated Harry very well. And so some people point to that and they go, look, he knew. But then a lot of people go, no, look how malnourished he is when he gets to Hogwarts. That's how he knows. So yeah.
So I don't actually think, that Dumbledore addresses these letters, is basically what I'm saying.
No.
Because
I doubt he's doing that.
That is admin work, and we know he doesn't do the school
that.
running
It's
thing.
only McGonagall.
Yeah, I think it's it's definitely kind of like a partially like an early book is insert sus eyes chicken for she had it all planned out from the very beginning. And
Did you?
I think it really is just I think it's partially that, but then it's also partially that potentially other people in the wizarding world think that Dumbledore's doing all these things and don't actually know all the details behind it.
That's my point as well.
It's partially could just be Arthur not knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too because it's a world filled with magic, and you'd think people would be able to think like, oh, you know what, this is probably not like, I'm sure that Dumbledore isn't actually sitting down and writing all this out. I'm sure McGonagall isn't sitting down and writing all this out. They probably, and I think this is actually like an incredibly powerful magical artifact known as McGonagall's thoughtful spellwork, where she enchants a quill to write all this out for her. And that's how we know. But one of the difficulties with all of this is that I always assume that people will understand how magic works, and they know it's not Dumbledore. They gotta know it's just like a quill that is being extra thoughtful because McGonagall enchanted it. And so I'm always confused when people don't reason through that it's definitely just magic that's doing this, not a person. But then I look at I look at our world and how we interact with Google. And people are like, oh my gosh, I wonder how they did that. And they could just look it up and they don't. And so I think that's kind of what's going on here too, is people are like, wow, it's Dumbledore. And they don't spend a second longer thinking about it. Versus it's actually McGonagall.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just the owls,
I
guess,
right?
they're the magic.
Yeah. I guess the only thing that I can think of is because it was such a last second change, potentially the owl was already on its way to Privet Drive, because we don't actually know if it says the borough's address on it.
Yeah.
It just has Harry. We just know that it's addressed to Harry.
Yeah.
So possibly it got rerouted while the owl was in flight, which I guess could be argued that Dumbledore had something to do with it, because he,
but by
with
that
his,
point, Harry's already there for a few days, isn't he? So I think the owl wouldn't have taken multiple days.
I thought it. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they're there for a couple days.
I always thought that the weird addresses...
It's not just the next morning, because that's the...
Yeah. Go for it, Alice.
I thought that the weird addresses on Harry's first letter were just because it was initially trying to slip in as regular mail, right? That initially it's coming in the post. So I just figured his got some weird address because that letter was trying to act like a regular piece of Muggle mail, but that when they sent it to people where the owl would deliver it, then there probably wouldn't be this ridiculous address on it.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
The ridiculous addresses continue
that.
Even when they go through eggs, even when they go through fireplaces, all that sort of stuff. And it also continues until when Hagrid actually delivers it to Harry when it's the rock, right? The shack on the rock. And so I don't think it's I always assumed that it was just somebody trying to intimidate the Dursleys into doing something better. Mm-hmm. But
maybe it is actually how you can do it with our today's technology. There's a placeholder on the envelope. It's insert wherever the final destination of the letter is. And it only ever shows up as Harry grabs the letter or is very close to him.
Yeah, I mean the actual reason is that in Sorcerer's Stone, you're trying to set up a kind of bizarre side world. And so we're just trying to create, Rowling's trying to create a tone with the letters that's both whimsical and funny and odd and create a mystery. I think in actuality, when we're trying to discuss why is the letter addressed like that? There's not actually a real reason behind it, unfortunately, because it's just so silly.
It's another case of early book syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So then talking about the contents of the letter, and this is now where we get the early warning signs about Lockhart, because that dude put all his books on the list for absolutely everyone, regardless of the year. Because we know by that point that, for other classes, there's one book per class per year. And then sometimes that runs over multiple years. It's like it spans for a few years. But, otherwise with like the Charms books or the Transfigurations, like this is year 2. So you buy the, book for year 2 and that's that. No. Lockhart, regardless of what age he was teaching, he was like, no, you all need the same books. I'm not going to differentiate between the years.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah.
There are
and it's
classes
really
like
crazy.
that, though, right? I mean, you've all been in college classes where they assign a whole bunch of books and you read one chapter out of a few of them.
But you don't normally take that class for 7 years straight. Right? I mean, that's the problem. He teaches everybody the exact same curriculum the entire year with no thought of like, but what do I teach in year 2 for these kids? So like the 7th years are getting the same level of magical experience as the first years, which is a terrible, terrible way to run it. And in concluding, and also with the amount of books that he makes everybody buy, which is so expensive. And it seems like to me, there should have been a lot more books on this book list, but the whole Hogwarts staff looked at it and went, we can't charge.
Yeah.
Just give them standard book year, whatever, and then everybody else just, I guess.
Because not even like there is no, for at least second years, the only other book is Standard Book of Spells Grade 2.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I guess you could argue that could cover both Transfiguration and Charms.
Maybe some herbology stuff in terms of wand work.
But there's no second level potions book. There's no second level herbology book. There's no specific second level charms book, because it does say Standard Book of Spells technically. So then charms would be separate.
True.
Arguably.
Very true.
So technically, there could have been other books that needed to be on the list, but he just like took them all over.
Yeah.
Madam Pince is so excited. She's like, I'm going to get so many kids in trouble for not returning the books back to the library.
This is a library heavy year for everyone. But
if it was a computer app, it would be because the person who set it up never thought that there would be more than 8 books, so there were only 8 slots in the letter, and everyone else who wrote stuff after that, it just doesn't get displayed.
Dumbledore,
like,
why did my book not make it? That's so funny. No, sorry, we hit our quota for... That's... I hired Gilderoy right after term ended, and he gave me his book list instantly. All of his books. Because turns out 1,000 students buying all 8 of his books, or 7 of his books, equals a lot of cash for him. And I have to allow it, because I don't do any oversight at all on curriculum or anything. Aurelia, when you were talking about Gilderoy, you could have just stopped right when you were like, because this guy, and then that's it. Just because this guy. Like, that's enough with Gilderoy.
And you know what? We often, we do see the direct insight of what it was like for, for Harry in his 5th year, where he had to sit his OWLs and you had a DA teacher where they're like, no practical.
Yeah.
And obviously that was terrible, and this is why they formed the DA and all this stuff. But can you imagine the 5th and 7th years and their preparation with Lockhart? Like, how on earth did anyone pass any DA test?
Please, for the love of God, do they ask about banshees? Because this whole book was about banshees. I need a question about banshees, please.
And also, considering the years before that were probably not the best teachers either. We obviously only know Quirrell, but we don't know who was before Quirrell.
Yeah.
Because, Harry does not have
potentially
a lot of competent teachers in the subject.
Yeah. I mean, there isn't necessarily, we don't get a lot of like Quirrell, I mean, basically it's just that he seems scared of his own subject is kind of like the only thing we really know about him and his teaching style. And that
in the movie
he kind of
holds
drones
a muggle
on.
lizard.
He's a little like Umbridge-y because it doesn't seem very practical at all. It seems very rooted in theory.
I mean,
and
in the movie,
stories.
he holds a muggle lizard, so that's cool.
Yeah. while McGonagall tries to get
so
wood.
random. I'm like, is this care of magical creatures? What are we doing here?
And it's not even a dark
know
creature like
if it's
Lupin.
just because, if it's just because we get Harry's point of view and he's not paying enough attention in some of the classes to give you a really good glimpse of the pedagogical method, or if really it is just terrible.
I think with Defense Against the Dark Arts, that's the one class that I'm like, yeah, when it's good, Harry's so captured by it that it seems like when he's not captured by it, it is not good. So, Quirrell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But but like back to the books, it's so much money because they do mention that the Lockhart books are really expensive.
Yeah.
So like not only is he assigning all 7 of his books, but they seem to be marked up quite significantly. And I thought potentially that this is like a commentary on the price of school books because like hot damn, there should have been a scene about them all trying to sell the books back at the end of the year and getting pennies on the dollar for
well, especially if a whole
for all their
school
textbooks.
worth of students is trying to do this with the same 7 books.
Exactly. Ugh, all those poor booksellers just inundated.
Ugh, it's not as bad as the invisible books of invisibility or the monster book of monsters.
Oh yeah,
but it is still pretty bad. But I mean, Flourish Blotts must have been so excited about, Gildor Lockhart coming and getting people to their shop, and it made me realize that I know we're about to get to Hermione's letter. Actually, so I'll save it. I'll save this in a second.
Okay.
So
no owls will hunt.
Yes, the lead into that. But yeah, aside from that shocking moment with the Hogwarts letter and, the Weasleys being quite concerned of how are they going to afford all of that, we also get a moment where I was like, well, no owls were harmed in this chapter. Poor Errol.
He's just, like, in a seat, passed out. And what? How does Harry describe him? A molting feather duster is what he looks like.
Yeah.
and Percy's just so a little Lockhart-y here, just so excited about the morning's great and I get to wear my prefect badge downstairs and I have 12 OWLs and then just sits on his owl. Well, not his owl, but the family owl.
Yeah, this poor owl like really has it rough. He's got to be so happy when Hermes and Pig come around that he has like two less people's mail to deliver.
Yeah.
Because oh my goodness. Well, and we get the what is it in the next one where Ron sends like all the food to Harry, and so it's Errol and Hermes and Hedwig like carrying Errol basically and all the food.
Yeah.
I think that's not
he can't make
I think that's Goblet of Fire because that's when they do that's Dudley's diet versus in Prisoner they're in Egypt. So he sends Errol again, but it's just
there you go.
It's just the letter or the newspaper clipping.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's right.
Speaking of letters, though, one Miss Hermione Granger sends a letter detailing much.
Yeah, I always love that, early books, Hermione's maybe not as prominently in it. Hermione still remembers she has a family she should spend time with and isn't just living at the Burrow. Because this is the response to, before Harry was at the Burrow and Ron basically saying, hey, we have this plan, and Hermione's response now finally has arrived and she's like, is that a good idea? I hope everything went well. And I was like, oh, these boys so need her.
But do they, though? Because, I mean, they did get Harry out of there in it, semi-legal adjacent manner, and nobody actually got in trouble except for with Mrs. Weasley.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it is interesting that the way Arthur reacted, how did it go? It almost seemed like this might have been the first time people tried it out, though.
Oh, it is 100% the first time, because
that could definitely have gone badly.
His whole, yes, absolutely. His whole thing when Mrs. Weasley gets mad at him is she's like, you wrote laws about, not doing stuff like this to muggle things. And he's like, well, yes, but you're allowed to do it as long as you have no intention of ever using it. And she's like, you wrote that loophole into the law specifically so that you could experiment. And so we know for a fact that he's never used this.
Yeah.
Right,
which
and
also,
a complex spell
props
like a
for
flying
Arthur,
car.
Sure.
Yeah. What were you saying, Sierra?
Oh, just props for Arthur for being cunning enough to write a loophole benefiting himself and himself only into a law for everyone that protects everyone, but also lets him do whatever he wants to do, which I think is amazing.
I've got an outhouse that eats
Such a
people,
good
but I'm never
argument.
going to use it.
Right. Oh my gosh.
It is an odd loophole, though, right? Because some of these artifacts that he's confiscating are not things that people use, but that they leave around for muggles to find. So, I mean, are you really intending to use a shrinking key if you let someone else find it?
Yeah, I think that is, the use is muggle baiting, right? So there's still a use for it, even though you aren't technically using it yourself, but you're using it for the purposes of entertainment, even though you're not technically the one holding it. Yeah. But also, Hermione
talking about Hermione and family.
Yeah, go for it.
I love that Hermione's letter also is like, well, we are going to be in Diagon Alley next week, so would be cool to meet up, which, so far so good. But then also, the whole Weasley family is like, yeah, we'll just do what Hermione says. Yeah. Who cares if we had other plans or if this works for us?
Conspiracy...
Also, during the week, doesn't Arthur have to go to work?
No, apparently not. He just gets, he just tells, it's not, his name, is it Perkins? It's not Porkins, that's Star Wars. Is it Perkins that is his friend?
I think so, yes.
So I'm sure he just tells Perkins, like, hey, I know you've got lumbago, but you're going to be pulling both of our shifts on Wednesday. And Perkins is like, what? Okay.
Perkins is like, why? And Arthur's like, well, my son's friend Hermione is in town, so we have to adapt to that.
Well, if he's been doing all these overtime raids, maybe he's got comp time.
He's got some comp time. That's funny.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but I have a conspiracy. So Conspiracy Sam is here. I believe full-heartedly, even though she plays it off like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'm certain that one Miss Hermione Granger has looked up what day and time Flourish Blotts is hosting Gilderoy Lockhart. That this is not a simple accident that they come on this day, but that Hermione is like, oh yeah, we'll be there Wednesday, like tucks hair behind ear, casually tries to play off, and that Mrs. Weasley is also very aware that her favorite heartthrob, Gilderoy Lockhart, is going to be at Flourish Blotts this day. So they're both easily just like, Hermione's like, let's do it this day. And Mrs. Weasley's like, oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, this is great. And then just like, oh yeah, we'll just go then. And Arthur's like, we will? Not a Saturday? And she's like, no, we'll go Wednesday, friends.
I'll buy into that, especially because it's Mrs. Weasley who says we'll meet at Flourish and Blotts in an hour. So she's like, no, I know exactly when the signing is happening.
Well, yeah, because, it has to have been advertised, in Witch Weekly and probably on the radio. And so, Molly has to have known. And also, but there is also another, I could see Lockhart being there, every shopping day until the school year and playing it off one day only, and then it's we extended another day. Another day.
The poor people of Flourish and Blotts are like, please. This has to be the final day.
Bookshop owners, are you kidding? The bookshop owners are like, can we shackle you to this desk
Yeah.
to sign autographs. We want as many people
But
coming
he's so
into our bookshop as
insufferable.
possible. Yeah, but you know, insufferable people versus making lots of money. How many times do we see people choose money over getting rid of insufferable people? Especially because the book next year is kind of insufferable himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I do, kind of like a little mini aside, I do wonder if there are certain days, like, leading up to the school year that are set aside for, like, student shopping.
Yeah.
And where, like, kind of Diagon Alley, like, prepares itself to be inundated with students and families and whatnot, and maybe, like, changes their wares around from, like, their general things to, like, the school, like, shopping list. Because, like, when I'm thinking of, like, Staples or other, like, you know, they have their back to school things, and they've got, like, school shopping lists and stuff for the area. I don't know if anybody else's
100%, yeah.
local place
So
does
you're
that.
Right.
But,
And if you're not a student, you avoid going that
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. So
exactly.
are you
yeah,
saying
so, like,
ILOPS
there's
and
probably, like,
are you saying ILOPS Emporium stops being the brothel and becomes the owl shop?
What? Where did the brothel
no,
come from?
it is literally called an owl emporium. No. Out of all the shops you could have tried that joke with.
Yeah, honestly.
It's ILOPS. ILOPS Emporium. It says nothing about owls.
It's ILOPS Owl Emporium.
Oh, it doesn't
Yes,
say
it
Owl?
is.
Dang.
Yes.
Are you saying Madame Malkin stops being a brothel and becomes about robes only?
I'm pretty sure it's like Madame Malkin's robes or
Yes.
whatever.
Shush. Yes, but you see, no, I'm going to stop with the jokes. I'm not going to go any
Sierra.
further.
But anyway, potentially there's only like 2 or 3 weeks of like shopping, so you kind of just have to like be prepared to go during that time anyway.
Cue Scar.
Um,
Be prepared.
so yes. So I don't know. It could be that, but yeah, I definitely Hermione and Molly are conniving or not conniving.
To be
What's the
really
word I'm looking
casual about it.
Conniving. Molly and Arthur are conniving together to create an atmosphere of tranquility for their children.
Colluding. That was it.
No, I think it's just straight up Mrs. Weasley is like, oh my gosh, Gilderoy's going to be there. Yes, Wednesday.
Yeah.
And who cares what anyone else has planned? But before we do go to Diagon Alley, we get to see some Quidditch. So the kids want to play Quidditch, and this for the first time stood out to me. It's like they are not using any real Quidditch balls, which, like, yes, well done for not using a real snitch and real bludgers, because that would be so dangerous. Because what happens if they just fly off and just hurt anything?
17
Damage
muggles
everything.
had their jaws broken today on 5th Street when a cannonball, seemingly of its own accord, soared through from 1776.
And it does say so, like, it would have been hard to explain that away if the balls had escaped. But, like, the quaffle doesn't fly of its own accord.
That we know of.
So I'm
Okay.
like, yeah.
So, yeah. When I first read the books, I assumed that it did. That it was also, like, semi-magical, and at the very least, like, floated in the air of its own accord. Like, maybe not zoomed around like a bludger or a snitch did,
Yeah.
but at least, like, stayed airborne and, like, could potentially float away. And it's probably because of passages like this. But I never, like, thought of it as essentially, like, just a ball. Like, a muggle ball that would fall to the ground and be, like, affected by gravity, and things. And so I feel like that's a movieism that we actually have, like, an answer for that. I don't know that it's specifically stated one way or the other.
I could also imagine the kids being like, oh, Mom, can we get a Quidditch set? And the parents being like, oh, no, we can't let you have balls that might get away, even if the real reason is we can't keep replacing these Quidditch balls that you might keep losing. It would be expensive.
Gosh, the snitch. Yeah. So I think, in terms of the quaffle, it may be there could be several different reasons, right? And this is all speculation. It could be that you can only buy it as a set, as you're saying, Alice, where it's like, okay, well, we could use the quaffle, but you can't buy the quaffle without getting 2 bludgers and a snitch. It also could be that the ball is made from some sort of magical creature's skin, and so for it to fall into Muggle hands, and if somebody were to study it, then, there'd be some sort of sinister cabal against Quidditch balls that eventually means the whole wizarding world is found out. What I assume it is the Ministry of Magic went, it's a ball that looks different from any Muggle ball. Keep it secret, keep it safe. And that's the only thought that went into it.
But in the books, it's actually a round ball. It's only a movieism that it has this weird shape.
Yeah.
Right, but it's red.
Yeah, red balls exist.
So, I have a soccer ball that's red.
No.
What about the red rubber balls?
But it's not a red soccer ball.
Come on.
It's
Can
not
you
rubber.
hear that in your head?
It's not red rubber ball.
Can you smell that
It's
in your
completely
nose?
different, right? It's its own thing. It just is red and it's round, but we have no idea what else it looks like. So it's going to be different from any other Muggle ball.
Yeah.
But we also have no idea what it looks like, so this is also completely your headcanon.
Yes, all of the... Really, I'm going to cue you in on something about this conversation. All of this conversation's headcanon.
Well, and
been a long day.
if you don't have hoops anyways, I mean, what would you really do with a ball?
See, that is forever what makes football, or I'll adapt to American soccer, the sport that everyone plays, because you don't need a goal. You can literally just mark it however you want, and you can play it anywhere, which is, I still prefer playing basketball, but you need a hoop for it. And if there's no hoop, you're just not playing basketball.
You just get a garbage can like they did in the old days and staple it to a telephone pole.
Yeah, but, if you're a kid, you
Fruit basket,
might not be
pick
able...
it up.
might not be able to do all of that stuff.
The goal is important here without the hoops. So they're not even really playing Quidditch. They're just on brooms throwing stuff at each other.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which honestly sounds fun.
I mean, Ginny's throwing looks of
They're just
deep
playing
love.
catch.
So
and Harry's just not catching.
takes Harry a while to catch on, period, and then to catch her at all.
But what he is doing is he's sharing. Aww.
Yes.
Something that Dudley's never done.
Yeah. And this is probably partially why, but I always loved that Harry's like, yeah, I have the best room here, so we can all fly it. I don't care.
Plus,
the line outstripped by passing butterflies.
Always great.
Kicks, it's so amazing.
Also, butterflies can get pretty quick, so it's not terribly slow, but still.
No. But it's still a funny visual. It just makes me think of Ron flying on the broom, laying flat against it, all dramatic, and then just this butterfly
It's very like anytime a cartoon or a movie does mini, when you shrink down size and they're having this big giant fight and then they zoom out and it's just the train bumps, the toy train bumps off and falls off onto the floor and it's this big situation. It's kind of like that where you the screen sort of collapses down to just Ron's squinting eyes as he lays flat on the broomstick, the wind whistling through his hair, but it's just like George blowing wind at him with his wand. As the butterfly goes by. Yeah, exactly.
That's so good.
And then I just, the twins are always good for some comic relief, and I just love whenever mentions of Percy and the head boy and all of that sort of stuff happens, because we have the first hints here that Percy is being very mysterious, side mystery anyway. Since we were just talking about this, the trio easily gets distracted by side mysteries, but also then the twins are being like, if we're not careful, we'll have another head boy in the family. I don't think I could stand the shame. Which I'm like, yeah, sure.
So good.
Which all leads to then when we finally meet Bill, that Harry's like, oh, that dude's actually cool. I just imagined another Percy.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. And I think it's funny that there's the little reiteration of who Bill and Charlie are. And it's like, oh yeah, well, he's never met them. And then just like moves on. And it's like, yeah, Harry may never have met Charlie exactly, but he did have a rather thrilling situation involving a dragon not but a few months back. That very much involved Charlie. So I think it's just really funny. He's never met him. I mean, he passed a baby dragon along to him via some friends who randomly flew across the Hogwarts grounds, but
yeah, that is a little odd thing not to have in the recap if there's going to be a little recap.
Yeah, fair.
Sorry. Apologies all around.
Oh, not your recap, but I mean in the book recap, when it reminds us all like who Charlie is, it doesn't say the most relevant thing from Harry's point of view.
Mm-hmm. The guy who saved Hagrid's dragon. That's it. That's all Charlie is.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who sent his friends instead of coming himself. This selfish man.
And then something else I love about the twins is sort of their more pragmatic approach to life, and they're just more sort of open and honest. Because this chapter, and especially this moment going forwards, but this chapter definitely talks a lot about, Harry is very rich, the Weasleys are not, and money is obviously a big deal for the family, especially if they have an insane new teacher who wants them to buy all the books multiple times. Because really, if we think about it, they could have bought one set and then just shared, because they don't all have the idea at the same time. Because it's, again, just the one single teacher.
Yeah, I know.
That's so true. They could have just, left it in the common room for each other. Yeah. Or in the classroom or whatever with, Weasley on it.
Yeah. Certainly Fred and George
are going to sit next to each other anyway. So, or they share with Lee. Not a big deal.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. It really shouldn't be. Especially because it's just Fred, George, and Lee in that Gryffindor room anyways.
Yeah. So I think I find it quite refreshing that, they are very openly talking about this here. They're like, how are we going to afford all of these books? It's going to be tough anyway. Ginny needs new stuff all around because she's starting school. Versus, with Ron is always a bit of best not to address it because we don't know how he's going to react. And it's definitely much more of a Hermione and Harry sort of skirting around the topic. Yeah. And then, so I just quite, I don't like that poverty is a thing that we're introduced to this early on into the wizarding world. But I like the approach that Fred and George are taking, where they're like, no, this is just reality. We have to face it and we have to talk about it, and this is it.
Yeah, and I also felt like it's a little bit of a sign of how they're older than Ron, even though they're not a lot older.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think it speaks to their readiness to run a business and be financially solvent and everything or later on. They, as you're talking about, Aurelia, their ability to be comedic in one moment and then be pragmatic is just the thing that makes them so successful later on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's probably very much the we don't like this, we want to solve this, and we enjoy this, so let's combine all of this and make a career out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of pragmatism, we have a different way of traveling that seems pragmatic if, indeed, your fire is hooked up to the Floo network and not electric. But
eclectic.
Eclectic. Anyways, we are trying to get all the Weasley kids that are still going to Hogwarts, plus Harry, plus Arthur, plus Molly, in the Floo network to Flourish and Blotts / Diagon Alley. Now, the problem here is, why can't all of them just why can't Molly hold Harry's hand and them go together like side-along apparition? No idea. But Harry gets to go by himself in magical means of transportation.
Maybe they could if it was a big fireplace.
I mean, it feels like you just put an extendable charm on it like they did on the car.
Yeah. Floo, this whole traveling via Floo just feels very Santa Claus-y.
Yeah. This is how he does it.
Which brings up all the kind of side questions with that as well. Of okay, what about people who don't have fireplaces, period? Okay, what if they only have really, really small ones? They just, like, can't use the convenience? Or, like, is it a standard thing in a wizarding home? What if they live in a muggle town? What if they live in a city? Like, what if they live in an apartment?
What if they live in a place where you don't need a fireplace, aka anywhere around the equator that don't build fireplaces standard?
Yeah, and so I feel like there's a lot of unnecessary complications with Floo travel. Yeah, you know, and you brought up the question of, like, why couldn't they just do it like a side-along thing? Yeah, but maybe if two people could stand side by side in a giant fireplace, is there some sort of weird, like, splinching situation? Could they somehow end up half of each person? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Also, presumably it means the fire is still going while no one is at home, which... that feels
dangerous.
like a fire risk, but
Magic.
But magic. Correct.
Yeah.
But magic is correct there.
Yeah.
that is the correct answer.
I guess it's also interesting because I think that's that travel by Floo thing. It's another one of those reminders that something that is so normal and regular that people in the Weasley family don't even realize that Harry wouldn't have done it. And so it's not until they're right at the cusp that his muggle-bornness pops up.
Yeah.
And so I felt like that was sort of the function of the travel by Floo here.
Yeah. And also, like, in that whole hubbub of it all, because, you know, all of them are going, and you know, as you say, they only realize at that moment in time that Harry's like, what's going on? And they do no good job at all at calming Harry down. They're like, yeah, it's all simple.
No.
You only have to consider these 5 things, but yeah, don't worry. And Harry's like, what now? And they're like, yeah, you go next. What?
Oh, I would have also gotten lost. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way I would have made it out of that. I probably would have been, like, stuck in the Floo network forever. That would not have gone well for me.
Yeah. I am, and I'm actually not sure anymore now looking at these notes because it was late when I wrote them. But I think it is a repeat that, you know, Fred and George go and then Harry goes from, like, when he first went to the platform. Mm-hmm. So that was always like, oh, that's a nice little, you know, repeat of that, where, like, Harry also was like, how on earth do I get on this platform? I keep watching, I keep not seeing what's going on, and then here's the same where Fred and George is like, yeah, watch us. That will totally show you how it works.
Well, you'd think that they would at least all travel with a little pocket Floo powder in case they had to give it a second try.
Hopefully, but that would be too thoughtful. I gotta say, Floo powder seems really stressed me out as a kid for sure, because you know, they're like, make sure you get off at the right fireplace. It's like, oh my, is it not going to stop? Am I just going to spin and spin and spin? Does it slow down for me to get out? Like, it's very unclear in the text in this, in terms of, like, if you're getting out or not. And so, like, Harry has no idea what fireplace he's going for.
Yeah. And also, presumably, if you say Diagon Alley, does it just go to all of the fireplaces in Diagon Alley, which could, you know, be quite a lot? Does it just spin through them and you're supposed to just jump off at the right one?
And
but
there are, like,
recognizing that
there are apartments there, like, wizards live in there. He might walk in on, you know, terrible things.
Yeah, but I feel like specifically with that, it would be like a train station. So it would be like Diagon Alley station, essentially. So it would be like the Floo that lets you out, like, main Diagon Alley.
Got it.
That it is called Diagon Alley. Where, like, if you're going to somebody's house, you're going to say their name because that's where you're going. You're going to their place.
Sure.
If you're going to a specific store or something, you would say the specific store. So I think that
yeah, but what a weird security system that people could just blunder out in the wrong place.
Well,
I mean, people might just be popping into your house accidentally.
And that's the whole thing too here.
Well,
is
that's only if your Floo's open.
The Floo network hears Harry say diagonally, and it sends them to Knockturn Alley, but not just any Knockturn Alley. It sends him to Borgin Burkes, kind of, because he just sort of throws himself out in a random spot. So it's not, I don't know, it's not as specific as I think you're making it.
Yeah, maybe.
Another thing that seems like an early book, like, don't think about it. There's no magic system here.
No, there really isn't. But yes, so Harry, with all this super nice prep work that he's getting from the Weasleys, ends up in Borgin Burkes, which is totally what he intended the place he intended to be at. And we get the another wizard family.
Well, yeah, because that's where...
Another wizard family introduced here, and see them a little bit interacting in action, sort of very in contrast to what we've seen with the Weasleys so far in this chapter, and it's the Malfoys.
Yeah, his Draco senses were tingling.
Yeah, and also Draco's Harry's senses were tingling.
Because he immediately mentions Harry.
Oh, yeah. It's cute. Why are you so obsessed with it?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is where the fanfic started.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting that Draco's all consumed and that Lucius is also kind of all consumed. Like, Lucius ends up being all consumed with Mr. Weasley a bit in the way that Draco is consumed with Harry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is why that's another popular fanfiction.
One that Sierra loves.
No, but I think from Lucius's standpoint, like, Arthur is, like, actively, like, raiding dark wizard locations and people's houses and things like that for dark artifacts. And so, like, he's currently actively posing a threat to Lucius.
Yeah.
So his current obsession with him makes sense. Yeah, I can let that one slide because he's, like, actively impeding on Lucius's, like, daily routine. Like,
right.
He has to be here in this store because of Arthur.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just also on Lucius, I think that it's funny how his reaction to, like, Draco's obsessions, it's basically like, eye roll, I get it, but, like, can you chill with the anti-Harry things when we aren't at home? Like, it's rather important that my I Was Imperious cover is believed.
Yeah, for real.
So
Exactly.
we can't be spouting off about this, like, in public, even though we're in Knockturn Alley.
Versus Ernie McMullen is also able to just, like, spout off about how much he doesn't like Harry. And nobody cares because he's not a Slytherin Death Eater person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or is he?
Dun, dun, dun. In fact, did you know that because Ernie McMillan didn't make it into the Triwizard Tournament, he felt so humiliated that in an alternate universe, he joined Voldemort and killed Neville Longbottom.
No.
Is that your version of Cursed Child?
Yeah, that's the alternative version of Cursed. That's the chapter summary of Cursed Child.
I mean, it could be worse. You could sit through 2 days worth of play.
Yeah.
So yeah, as Sierra mentions, Lucius cares a lot about appearance, and you know the way also that he treats Draco here, and he's like, "Well, I hope my son, makes has a better lot in life. He's not gonna try to be a blunderer." It's like, okay, we get it. You are important. Your son has to be important. This is all about status, and this is. Yeah.
Yeah, although, to be fair, I don't know if Arthur and Molly would be really happy if their kids decided to become thieves and plunderers either.
I mean, that's literally all that Ron does in Deathly Hallows. He breaks into Gringotts vaults and kills a bunch of things.
Their eldest son was a curse breaker and was basically blundering on ministry orders. So
Bill's like, I love the Hand of Glory. I've got the other one. There's two of them because they came from the same person.
So,
sanctioned blundering, aka the Ministry of Magic.
It's very British.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the commentary there.
Oh, yeah.
It just reminds me of James A.
Spend
Caster.
5 minutes in the British Museum.
It just reminds me of James A. Caster's bit where he's like, now this is a bit far-fetched. We Brits, a while ago, sailed and robbed the whole world. And then we put it back in a museum, and when the places wanted them back, when they said we'd like our stuff back, we said, no, we're not done looking at it yet.
And also, actually, we're mostly not looking at it because it's hidden away where no one can see it, but you can still not have it back.
We have really good copies
Yeah.
on display that we tell people are the real thing, but they're not.
Yes. There's a whole, like, this is a side tangent, but I find this so funny. The Brits have a lot of Greek stuff, like ancient Greek stuff, and the Greek people were like, hey, we would like to have it back. And then the insane response of the Brits was like, yeah, but you have no museum to display it. We'd give it back to you if you had a museum to display it. So the Greeks went and built a museum, and were like,
the museum. Yep.
and left spaces where they're like, this is where this exhibit goes once we have it back. And then the Brits were like, yeah, we're still not going to give it back. Do you know what?
Okay.
This is like a real thing that is absolutely
Yes. Yes. So, Sierra's real life story. I was in Greece at said museum, and then about 6 months later was in London at said museum. And got to see it all together. Eventually, but yeah, it's literally like in Greece at the Acropolis Museum, they have an empty space where one of the statues goes, and then you go to the British Museum, and then you see, and it's literally like, is currently lives in the British Museum, and then you go to the British Museum, and they have empty spaces where the other 5 would go, except for that, the Greeks kept it, and then they're like, yeah, well, we have replicas, but this one's the real one that we're just not giving back.
So stupid.
Guys, how is this British? Why?
Yeah.
Give it back.
So definitely Bill is a blunderer. This is what I'm taking away from all of this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Bill equals the biggest blunderer ever.
I also find it fascinating whenever we see Lucius interacting with Borgin, which granted we don't see a lot, but this introduction of it, because we see sort of like a hierarchy or like societal like standings, because Lucius absolutely expects Borgin to treat him with like a crazy amount of respect, really.
Yeah.
Like he's like, no, like you should like bow to me, and like I am your master here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it kind of echoes when we see the memories from Tom Riddle too, right? That when he's working at Borgin's, the people he interacts with expect him to be very deferential.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
And also we see it like in, Borgin even addresses this as like, hey, so you're selling because, you're affected of these raids that I've been hearing about. And Malfoy is just like, well, we haven't been visited yet because the Malfoy name still commands a certain respect. So he's like, yeah, this is all about status in society for me, and I should be treated a certain way because I am Lucius Malfoy. And also I have money, so I can make my own laws.
Bribe people to make them for you.
It is interesting that, Lucius here says the name Malfoy still carries some weight, and it's like, no. The Malfoy money is still there, and it carries weight.
Yeah. And it's quite literal gold, so it's probably quite heavy.
Yeah. Fair point.
What did you make of his mention of, he didn't actually say, if people found certain artifacts. He said something about if people saw certain poisons. That seemed odd.
I'm looking for that line.
Yeah, that's true. It says, as you see, certain of these poisons might make it appear, but this is also part of like a whole list.
Yeah. So
like, it's a whole roll of parchment. And it says, I have a few items at home that might embarrass me.
Yeah.
And then he continues on and says, as you see, certain of the poisons might make it appear. And then he just says, can we return to my list? So I think that it's kind of like, partial, it's a little bit of everything, I think. So I think that part of it is like artifacts and things, and then there's also like potentially poisons that might make it appear like he's out for nefarious things. He's not just a collector, but he like might actively try to hurt somebody. But then after he leaves, Borgin says, if the stories are true, you haven't sold me half of what's hidden in your manor.
Yeah.
So I think that it's kind of like a combination, but specifically like there's a reason why these particular items are on the list to be sold today. Like a poison is not going to be easily disguised as something else.
And I bet that there's a bunch of stuff in there that's like, hey, this poison comes from a basilisk fang. Like, that's clearly illegal, and I clearly got that only from dark stuff. So, like, I'm sure that when he's... I think you're right, Sierra. We've got items in a list, and then he's specifically talking about these things here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, interesting enough that the one thing he's getting rid of that same day is probably the one thing that would have passed any ministry raid, because it would have looked like a diary to everyone else. And they'd be like, yeah, all right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting to think what his criteria might have been for what he decides to get rid of. It surely wasn't anything that he super wanted, because it seems like it would be easier to hide stuff than to sell it.
Yeah.
Well, it's just so...
Yeah, or like, why couldn't he put it in his vault in Green
Well,
Gods?
that's... I think the whole point is, like, it's so easy as a wizard to hide something. Okay, I own a piece of property that nobody knows about up in the Scottish Highlands that I apparate to, and I dig in the ground and open up my chest, and then I put this thing here, and I make it unplottable, and you can only see it if you're a Malfoy, and, like, there's all of this stuff that you can... Oh, like, I'm the secret keeper of it. And nobody else can see it. Like, there's just a lot of ways to hide stuff that's not just like, I'm gonna sell this. Like, I'm not really sure what the motivation is behind it, other than he's not creative enough to come up with a better way to hide his stuff.
Yeah.
Or, this is another early book syndrome.
Yeah.
True.
It's
or
how
we just
he ends
really
up with
needed to
store
introduce... Yeah, maybe that's how Draco's able to come back and get the Hand of Glory and the necklace, is all the store credit built up.
Because
that's really funny.
And that's another thing, is like, this is our first trip to Borgin Burkes, but there's a lot of stuff mentioned here that will become important later. And I think that leads us nicely in today's 7-ingredient special.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yes! Today's 7 ingredients of the special are... There are 7 things that Harry notices in Borgin Burkes. We've got a withered hand on a cushion, which is...
Hand of Glory.
Indeed. We've got a blood-stained pack of cards, which... It must be bad blood, or else why would that be being sold? We've got a staring glass eye. We got an evil-looking masks. We've got an assortment of human bones. We've got rusty spiked instruments hung from the ceiling. And we have the vanishing cabinet. Now, quickly here on these, it seems like much of this is just like ambiance, not actually for sale. And then there's like actually a couple of things that are in there.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure.
We're the evil shop, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, let's...
Do you think these
the
evil-looking
bones?
masks
Put some more
are
bones
Death Eater
out.
masks?
What are
No
you-
one understands we're the evil shop.
What are you,
We
an
need more
Orthodox
bones.
Christian? I just read a whole thing where it was like, a Catholic walks into a Protestant church and like, where's Mary? Where's my mom? And then a Protestant walks into a Catholic church and the person's like, why is there so much stuff in here? And then an Orthodox person walks into a Catholic church and they go, where are the bones? But thankfully, we don't have to stay in Borgin Burkes for very long. In fact, Harry manages just not to shut the vanishing cabinet so that he lives in limbo, can't apparate, and then dies. Instead, we get 5.5 more books. And Harry gets out into Diagon Alley, where we have Hagrid buying flesh-eating slug repellent.
Well, yeah, Hagrid actually, he goes out into Knockturn Alley and then Hagrid saves him and
correct.
drags him by the scruff of his neck to the Diagon Alley. Which is, I think, partially speaking to Hagrid being like, you didn't respond to my letters, so I'm like upset with you. But also like, why on earth are you here? You shouldn't be here. So I'm actually slightly terrified for you. So he just literally picks up Harry. He's like, nope, you come with me, bad boy.
Well, how many people do you think are a little nervous that Harry's going to turn out to be a bad guy?
Yeah.
I mean, Hagrid's
Maybe, but I don't
not.
think Hagrid's thinking that.
But the Banshee that's trying to eat Harry is probably like, ooh, Dark Lord, nice.
Yeah, I like, we get another little moment of Hagrid once again bringing Harry where he should be, steering him into Diagon Alley, just like he did a year before. But my question is about this flesh-eating slug repellent. Why is it only sold in Knockturn Alley? It seems like maybe like the slugs themselves would be sold there. but
I assume
the
that
repellent for it would be like a normal item?
Yeah.
I assume repellent is a euphemism and it's actually a poison.
Well, yes. Yeah, I agree that you know, like a lot of slug repellents are sprays for the ground that would then kill them, and it's just people have an easier time selling repellents than they do this kills this thing, because in general people get squeamish about killing even things like flesh-eating slug repellents. So I don't think it's just like, you know, you spray it on yourself and it doesn't come near you. I think it's literally like, I sprayed the ground, therefore I've killed any flesh-eating slugs that might be here.
I always figured it was essentially just like
mosquito
a
repellent.
pesticide.
Yeah, a pesticide is
like
poison.
where you spray it on, because he says that it's eating all the cabbages or the pumpkins,
which
or
is
something
weird because
like that.
that's not flesh,
And so,
is it?
right? Yeah. So I'm like unless you're talking about like
vegetable
the
flesh?
flesh of like, is this like a Banicula situation?
But
here?
then that's way less
he's
scary.
probably I figured he's already used the cabbage-eating slug repellent and it wasn't strong enough, so he had to escalate.
I mean, knowing Hagrid, he probably picked it up and then was like, "Are you flesh eating?" And then it bit him, and he was like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah.
Probably.
So, Hagrid, in his bit sterner approach here, drags Harry to Diagon Alley, where he's very quickly reunited with everyone, as well as meeting Hermione and her parents. So very lucky that instantly, like, Harry steps into Diagon Alley and everyone's like, "Yeah, we're here all now. Everyone's here now." And we get sort of mixed reactions to him. He was in Knockturn Alley. You know, we get the very concerned, "Why on earth were you in Knockturn Alley?" to the younger kids being like, "Oh my god, so cool. We always want to go. We're never allowed to go."
And it's unfair that they're like, "Why were you in Knockturn Alley?" Because it's like, I didn't do it on purpose. But I also imagine that when they're looking for Harry, Hagrid just sort of holds Harry above the crowd like a limp stuffed animal, and Harry's just like, "No, okay." Who's looking for Harry?
Who does this boy belong to currently?
Yeah. And then we get another interaction of Arthur Weasley and his interest in Lucius Malfoy, and then Molly's reaction to this whole scenario where she's like, "Yeah, you know," which I think all of this is leading to the brawl because, you know, tensions are already high anyway, and then
right,
they just have to erupt.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, again, like, he is conducting these raids. So, like, if it's suspected that Lucius is, like, trying to get rid of items, or, like, which he is, then, like, this would be a very good thing for him to know ahead of time. Like, let the man do his job, Molly. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, he's trying to be interested in a person who's on his list of people to raid, and he's skulking around a shady place.
Selling items.
Come on!
Specifically because of Arthur. I do feel like Arthur needs to ease off here. Or not Arthur, Molly needs to ease off here and be like, this is his literal job.
Let him cook.
Let him cook. I'm going to put Lucius in the frying pan, and even if he gets out, he'll still be in the fire.
So yeah, I was like, okay, Molly. But then we actually get to sort of the peak of the topic of wealth and poverty here, because they're at the bank and they're getting money. And this is so uncomfortable. Like, even like reading it, you feel so uncomfortable because, you know, Harry's like, well, there was not much in their vault. And then I was trying as a 12-year-old to block the piles and piles and piles of gold that I have.
Right.
Keep buying my potion, Hermione.
I feel like if they'd gone to like Harry's vault first, maybe he gets to their vault, sees basically nothing, and he's like trying to like flick galleons into the back corners. He's like, oh look, there's more over there hiding. What do you do?
Fred and George are just pocketing money. Harry's like, yeah, please.
Honestly, like, if Molly wasn't there and it was like just Harry, Fred, and George, I feel like Harry would have been like, yeah, just like take a handful. Go for it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not with Ron there, probably, and not with Molly there for sure. But if it's just like Fred and George, I feel like he'd just be like, yeah, just go
nuts.
Go for it.
Go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm never going to spend all this.
So once we have left the bank and this uncomfortableness is over, they all split up, but obviously with a clear appointment when they need to meet back at Flourish Blotts, because, you know, as we discussed, Hermione and Molly have an appointment there, and everyone needs to be there for it. And I thought it's interesting that the trio is allowed to go off without supervision, and because, you know, especially like one parent is out with the daughter buying robes. The three other parents are just chatting, and the rest of the kids are just doing whatever.
I mean, Arthur cannot be bothered.
Harry was literally in Knockturn Alley like an hour ago, and everyone's like, yeah, you go off.
Well, so
but they leave them alone all the time. I mean, this was not weird back in the day.
Yeah, you're talking about 1992?
Yeah.
They're older than 4, absolutely. In a little mall-like area, for sure.
But, I mean, it's more because literally Harry was just in Knockturn Alley.
Yeah, but it was by accident.
Yeah, but she yelled and said, don't go back down there. Don't take one step.
Now he's with friends.
Okay. Just me then, I guess.
I think it's more the era than anything, right? It's more the way in which parents were treating kids in the 90s. Like, I, even as a small kid in the late 90s, was able to walk down to a friend's house, you know, that's 2.5 miles away.
And you're like, there'd be like one parent stationed in the mall, and everybody would get dropped off, and there'd be like 1 or 2 parents who'd just like hang out in the food court or something, or go be like doing their shopping and be like, all right, kids, meet here in 2 hours or whatever, and then you just like let them loose. And so then you just get hordes of mall rats walking around, like, and then, I mean, it's like a somewhat safe, contained place. They've got plans to meet up. And also, like, they end up running into just about everyone as they wander around. So, like, the Weasleys could have found them probably pretty quickly if they needed to.
It is strange knowing that, like, there's like, what is it? There's probably a hag just down in Knockturn Alley. It's not like you don't live near a magical creature that literally wants to eat children. But, you know, it's Magic Town and it's peacetime, so everybody's pretty unconcerned.
I guess that's the point of zoning, right? You keep all the children eating hags in one street.
Zoning hags is such a terrible concept.
Yeah, so they're running into everybody though as they're going through, which I think is it's a fun, like, immersive descriptions of like everybody's character, and then also reminding the reader what's in Diagon Alley. But we get Percy, which I just love. I love all of Percy's little asides, because he's just such the black sheep, but in a like non-typical black sheep fashion.
Yeah.
It's like he's like the one normal person in the, you know, the crazy family.
Although I have to say, that book title, I was like, yeah, that's a bit strong, isn't it? Like that feels like you care a bit too much about power.
Yeah. prefects who attained power. And then it was like something about, what is it? Who became minister or something like that. Prefects who became minister.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was just an overselling kind of title, though, right?
Probably.
So you read it, and it's just like, oh, so-and-so had this job, so-and-so had this job, but they're not all particularly powerful jobs.
I mean, we could also discuss that there's like 3 types of jobs in the wizarding world, so,
yeah,
what really could have happened.
Teacher, shop,
yeah,
ministry worker. Nailed it. Done.
Yeah.
Quidditch player, if you're lucky.
I'll give you 4 for healer.
5 for Quidditch.
5, yeah, and that's really it.
Nice.
Yeah, a study of Hogwarts prefects in their later careers. But then, so then Ron says that, he's very ambitious. He's got it all planned out. He wants to be Minister of Magic. And I just, opinion for a moment. Percy being Minister versus Hermione being Minister?
If Percy is minister, there's going to be rules for absolutely everything.
So,
from the cauldron thickness to everything else.
And I'm sorry, that wouldn't be that way with Hermione.
Not as much. I think she, by the end of the series, understands the needlessness for overbearing rules versus what actually matters. I think that's one of her biggest character growths by the end of Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
I feel like Percy learns similar lessons, though.
Yeah, but only because he tries.
He has his mistrust in
yeah.
the people who he's supposed to be looking up to.
I still feel like he'd be very rule focused rather than governance. Like, there's a difference between rules and governance, and I think Hermione's better for governance. But I also think there's a United States president named Franklin Pierce, who I studied a lot because he's the only president that ever came out of New Hampshire, and he was actually a really poor president. He lasted for 1 term, and he was very sort of uppity in rule, and he was a lawyer, and he knew all the stuff about politics, but he could not get anything passed because nobody really liked him, and he was too like a stick in the mud. And I imagine Percy's reign as minister would be sort of like that. Unpopular, stick in the mud, not able to communicate well with the masses. Versus Hermione seems like at some point she'd be able to converse with the masses, but also have no patience for stupidity, and people might... Plus she's connected to the Chosen One, so that's helpful.
Yeah.
I think it depends a little on connections too, right? So we don't really have a super good idea about whether Percy just being a Weasley would be helpful, at least in some quarters.
Well, and I think, right, I mean, it certainly would be helpful in the fact that Ron Weasley is Harry's biggest, supporter other than Hermione. It's like those two, and Hermione certainly benefits off of her connection with Harry. But I think Percy's political career is dead because his first boss that gave him a chance, aka Weatherby's master, is Barty Crouch Sr., who is like a poison to a political career because of what he did to his son, both during the trial and then after, when I'm sure all that stuff comes out about him. And then also he's very connected to Cornelius Fudge's office, which was extremely unpopular and also poisoned career-wise. So unless he's going to come out very strongly against Fudge, and say, I denounced this and this is a mistake and et cetera, then his political career is really poisoned by the first 2 people that he's influenced by and why his career takes off in the first place. It's too easy to run an election and be like, this guy was Cornelius Fudge's, in his pocket during the years when he ignored Voldemort. Like, how do we know that you're going to be any better than Fudge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Scrimgeour gives him a chance because
and then
he thinks he can get an in with Harry.
And then Scrimgeour's governance is also quite poor.
Well, short-lived.
Impact-wise, yeah. Because he doesn't do anything to actually defeat Voldemort. He just tries to use Harry as a political tool.
Yeah, and then he's
dead.
Well, their government's approximately as effective as their pedagogical strategy.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah. I mean, what would, it's interesting that you say that the connection to Harry helps, which, is actually literally what Scrimgeour was like, just walk in and out of the ministry, it'll help me.
Yeah. He's not wrong politically, he just is immoral about it.
Yeah. But what is, I've kept thinking, I was like, what's Percy's interactions with Harry? He's like, told him off once for going into a girl's bathroom. He's once bet like money because he was like, we have Harry, we're gonna win this Quidditch game. And like, what else does he really talk to Harry about?
A
like,
little
they
bit
don't
of
really
advice
interact
at
a
the
lot.
end of this book in terms of what classes to take.
Yeah. So yeah, Percy doesn't really have a strong connection to Harry, like at all.
I mean,
Considering
politically,
he lives in the same house that Harry spends his summer at.
yeah. Politically, he could try and be like, I know Harry Potter, and I was, great and helpful during the years against Voldemort. I was there down in the chamber with him and Gilderoy Lockhart. Ask Lockhart, he knows.
But then Ginny would be like, nope.
Yeah, for real.
How
Bat bogey.
are you talking about my husband? So yeah, interesting though.
Speaking of power-obsessed people, we head
And
into
books.
we head into Flourish Blotts, which is the anthem for the rich and the famous is playing from what's that band called? Dang it.
Good Charlotte.
Thank you, yes. Rich and the Famous is playing. So here we go. In there we go.
Yeah. And what is Harry's nightmare is Lockhart's jackpot.
This would honestly be horrible. I mean, it's absolutely horrible in any possible way that you can look at it, except for just being Lockhart's delusional self. Like, he's taking advantage of a kid. He's claiming he's helping Harry. But it's like, how does anybody not see how, like, this whole situation is, like, only Lockhart can be this delusional.
Because celebrity is as celebrity does.
As celebrity does. Remember that, Harry.
And when you read it, it sounds so horrible because you're in Harry's head. But as an adult, when you look at what's going on, at least in this scene, the fact that they're taking a couple of pictures and giving him a book, I mean, it's not really very abusive.
No, not yet. It's just icky.
No, but you're publicizing a child.
Yes, which is not good. But
it's the fact that Harry is a kid. If he was an adult, you'd just kind of be like, that's like what celebrities are here for, kind of a thing. Like, it's very, very like paparazzi-esque. Esque. But when it's the fact that Harry's a child that makes this so.
Also, like, there's a reason why Gilderoy is a Ravenclaw, right? And it's a really smart, prudent PR move to be like, oh my gosh, yes, together we will make the front page. And to grab Harry and do like, it's super smart of him. It's just like, this is one of the things where it's like, oh, Harry doesn't have parents at the moment. He's got, sort of aunt and uncle Arthur Molly, but they still haven't kind of fully enraptured themselves into what Molly becomes in Order of the Phoenix, where she's like, I'm basically this kid's mom. And she's also too, and I think Arthur always takes a very, like, he's not our kid, like, we've got to let him do his thing. But Molly is too sort of eyes bright looking at Gilderoy to sort of see any fault. She's very Hermione-ish that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also I think, this is the first time they have real responsibility over Harry. And not something that they decided to do. Their children literally are like, this guy's gonna live with us for the rest of the summer. And they're not very prepared to what it means to have someone they're, looking after now who's like super, super famous.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
This would never happen to any of their kids. Yeah. So, like, yeah.
So it is, to your point of like paparazzi style thing, it's like you'd have like no one here is giving consent that Harry is allowed to be on the newspaper, but also who would even have the legal power to give that type of consent? Is it only Dumbledore?
Well, no, according to McGonagall and everybody, it's the Dursleys.
Yeah.
It's the Dursleys.
Because they're the only ones who can let him go into Hogsmeade.
But then also they're like, Sirius is like, I approve and only Dumbledore knows and that's gotta be good enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it is just a permission form, right? I mean,
we're just talking about school stuff.
Public record.
Yeah. So that's why it's good enough for Dumbledore. I also
can't imagine, like, how does this happen between McGonagall and Dumbledore, where McGonagall's like, so you told us we could definitely not let him go to Hogsmeade all of last year. You were very firm on this, and I understand. But, like, he still doesn't have a permission slip from the Dursleys. why are you now okay with this, Dumbledore?
Yeah.
That probably...
And what are you not telling me?
That probably happens so much that McGonagall's just like, fine, whatever.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And you could make an argument that a third year is different than a fourth year, and maybe you're not as worried about the permission thing.
Yeah, the real argument is also Sirius was on the loose, and everyone was very concerned about Harry.
But he's still on the loose. Like, McGonagall doesn't know that that's changed that
and
much.
everybody's suddenly not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Suddenly we are not concerned, even though he's definitely still on the loose for everybody else.
Dumbledore
there's no
might,
Dementors anymore.
Dumbledore might have that's very helpful. And Dumbledore might have told Order adjacent McGonagall about Sirius's whole thing, but who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, here's what the real thing is. McGonagall comes to Dumbledore and says, "You told me that he couldn't go to Hogsmeade, and now suddenly he can go to Hogsmeade." And then Dumbledore goes, "Well, we've told everyone that first years aren't allowed their own broom, and you got him a broom, so you're one to talk."
This is called a tit for tat, which if we had an HR department, would tell me that I'm not allowed to do, but we don't.
Yeah. We each get one exception for Harry.
So, talking about Lockhart being a Ravenclaw genius here, using his moment, he's also using this moment to make a very big announcement.
He is, in fact, the defense against the dark arts teacher for the future until he isn't anymore. And he seems to not realize that he's not going to be teaching past this 1 year, because he's very excited about announcing this.
Yeah. I mean, he's already told everyone to buy all the books, so potentially his idea was like, they'll spend all the money now, but it'll last them the whole Hogwarts career.
Yeah, for real.
I'm surprised he didn't put his new book on the list.
Oh,
Magical Me.
Magical Me.
Well, it hadn't come out yet. And also, that one's, I think Dumbledore probably said no.
Dumbledore's like, fine, I'll take your weird adventure stories that are actually based on real things, it's just not you. But the book just about you, no.
Yeah, precisely.
This is where I draw the line. I rarely draw it, but this is where it is.
And it's so funny because Dumbledore seems to know with Gilderoy what's going on, right? He says at the end, when he obliviated himself, and Ron or Harry tells Dumbledore that, Dumbledore looks at him and says, like, hoisted on your own petard or something like that, or, fallen on your own sword, Gilderoy. And it's like, this is when it's like, Dumbledore, are you kidding? You knew?
Yeah.
And you did nothing? And then Harry almost lost all of his memories? Who cares about Ron losing his memories? But Harry!
Dumbledore was like, oh, I can't find no one to teach this. I'll settle for this crazy person. And then he's like, also, it's not time to get the wolf yet because Harry's not old enough. We need the wolf when Sirius is out.
Yeah, for real.
Well, he probably figured none of the kids would do anything interesting enough that Lockhart would have to steal their story.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, but still, like, to know that somebody's going around modifying memories illegally, and then to be like, yeah, he can teach at my school, is, like, such a straight-up garbage administrator move.
Yeah.
Because maybe McGonagall has done something in the past, or Flitwick, the dueling champion, or Pomona Sprout, not Pomona Sprout, oh my gosh, Sprout, or Poppy, or whoever. Like, there are a bunch of people there who are big adults that might have done something cool, and then he just is like, okay, so I was once a Death Eater that turned double agent because of Lily Potter. Ha-ha!
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that level, like, Dumbledore figures that it's not going to happen under his roof because
but then he gets kicked out.
His mere presence.
Or what he should have done is
Dumbledore's
immediately
like, it's fine.
What he should have done as soon as he was relieved of his duties is gone straight to Gilderoy and been like, okay, my last act is that you're fired. Let's go. I can no longer protect everybody from you.
It's like, Gilderoy, we had an agreement. You could teach here as long as I'm here. Well, they kicked me out, so it's goodbye for you.
Goodbye for you. Also, pay everybody back for their books, please.
Yes.
The interesting...
Talking about books.
Yeah, precisely. Go ahead, Aurelia. Make that transition.
Talking about books, Harry gifts his free books, because he definitely needed a set of free books, to Ginny. And she then stands up to Malfoy for him, because, ta-da, Malfoy's here now as well. and Malfoy shoots back with an insult that really only works at this age, because he says, Potter, you've got yourself a girlfriend. I was like, yeah, like, make it 1 or 2 more years and this is like a compliment.
Yeah, seriously.
Good age-old
Such a
insult.
childish and yet very effective taunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that Ginny, who could barely get a word out near Harry, is like, he gave me free books and I'm gonna stand up to this weird evil boy.
Well, it's easier to say things when you're mad than when you're embarrassed, I guess.
Yeah,
Certainly.
true.
And I also liked that you said ta-da with Malfoy, as if Rowling just like pulled Draco out of a hat and placed him in the scene. Like, ta-da, here he is.
Well, it does feel like that because there's a lot going on and then suddenly also the Malfoys are here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It does seem surprising, right? I mean, you think they're surely the sort of people that send out a personal shopper.
Yeah. And they would definitely not go to Flourish Blotts when everyone else is there.
Unless Lucius is there to try and make a connection with Gilderoy so they can talk to him and meet his publisher, and therefore connect another person to the publisher in order to keep his web of connections going.
Yeah.
Boom, nailed it. Got it in one. No help needed.
Well, it is a question, though, right? I mean, how does Lucius know that he's gonna run into the Weasleys? Has he just been carrying this book around the whole time? Is it something that they wouldn't take at Borgin's? I mean, it's odd.
I always assumed that he chickens out of selling it right then to Borgin, and that he's still holding on to it, and then this sort of brainwave hits him. That it just is it is happenstance that causes it. In a happy moment for him, he goes, "Oh, what a great idea!" Which is not my favorite writing possible. Period. But it doesn't seem like it's that purposeful as a premeditated. Let me go find Arthur Weasley's child and put this in here.
Yeah,
but it could be that he Charlie Date It. That's a reference to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and there's a very famous meme of him with all the yarn connecting all the conspiracy points. It may be that he Charlie Date It and was like, okay, so Gilderoy Lockhart's going to be there, and I know because I intimidated the Witch Weekly person into showing me that Molly Weasley reads that, so she definitely saw this advertisement, and I bet you anything that she's going to go there. So I'm going to go to the south of France where Hermione is, and I'm going to Imperious her, and she's going to write a letter that gets everybody to come on this Wednesday, and then at that point, I will find them when Gilderoy's there and slip this in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
well, it's a very odd move, isn't it? Right? I mean, if he had put it in any of the boys' stuff, they probably wouldn't have used it.
No.
Yeah.
Percy might have.
Do you think that if he had put it in any of the boys' stuff, they would have been like, I don't know what this is. Here, Ginny, you're a girl, and would have ended up with her anyway?
I think Percy definitely keeps a diary, and as soon as Voldemort started telling him how to gain power, he would have been like, great.
Yeah.
But everybody else, I think you're right. Ron might have been like, here, Ginny, have this, I don't want it. Fred and George might literally have just chucked it.
Yeah.
Or tore out pages to do something else
true.
with it.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. But I I think it's pretty great. Ron's straight up accusation of Draco just ordering Dobby to keep Harry from going back to school. Such a bold move, off of nothing. We're talking about, oh, you got yourself a girlfriend. Oh, here's the books, whatever. And then Ron's just bet you're surprised Harry's here.
Ron just
What?
Ron just
Dude,
goes for a
like,
punch to the throat.
Bold move.
Like, it's crazy.
I
And
know. I mean,
it's so funny because...
no one ever accused him of having tact.
Yes. It's so funny because Aurelia and I constantly talk about how Ron has such promise by the end of Sorcerer's Stone because he's like this strategic genius who like can defeat Minerva McGonagall, and like there's this other aspect to him that there's so much growth to have. And then here he's got this wonderful sort of strategic intuition about like who's doing what, and then from here on out it just kind of peters out. Like as soon as he has a wand that doesn't work, he just is kind of like a useless snack eater who's afraid of spiders and can move some rocks by hand.
Yeah, and then in book 3, he's just upset about his pet and then has a broken leg, and you see,
and then it's just hormones all the time. For 4 more books after that.
Yeah.
And then we get an entirely Muggle fight where Lucius and Arthur do not come wand to wand, but they come fist to fist with each other over some very silly insults. Yeah,
which is particularly funny because Lucius is definitely not one to go the Muggle way with anything else. So,
well, and it's
just really wanted to get his hands on.
Oh my gosh, Sierra, stop it with your fan fiction. So I think what's really interesting here is that the biggest loser of all of this is Lucius, because I think Arthur standing up to the intimidating, reckless moneymaker, big rich dude in a Muggle way versus Lucius, like sort of in his estimation stoops down to the level of Muggle fighting, and so it's like this. It's just such a great, even though I don't condone fighting, it's such a great moment for Arthur.
Yeah, I mean, I think really what it really shows is just like this visceral hatred between the two families, like to the point where they just succumb to their like baser instincts of like, wands, what are wands? Like kind of like a mirror almost of Hermione's like panic, but there's no wood. Like it's like in moments of great stress, they're just like, magic? What is this magic you speak of? I must fight him. And so I think it really is just like, it's so ingrained in their families and in them specifically that like they hate each other so much that they just can't even like act at all rationally or reasonably.
There might also be,
but you know who does is Hagrid being responsible again.
Which is really,
I have one more thing to say about the brawl. Another parallel to like fan fiction. I know Sierra likes despairing apparently, but. I
just think it's funny.
A lot of fan fiction, in specifically like Harry Potter fan fiction, suffers from the magic is a thing because, you know, Muggles write it. And so a lot of times there's like, oh yeah, there's just no magic happening anywhere in a lot of fan fiction. It's like a very common theme. And I'm sort of like, yeah, maybe Rowling hasn't really thought out dueling at this point. So they're just fist fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but dueling comes so quickly on the heels of this.
I know. Let me have this.
Also, you know, speaking of, the Weasleys idolize their father Arthur so much. There's sort of this odd dynamic where it's like, Mom loves us and we love her, but she also, you know, is a big nag at times. And then they're like, our Dad's a bit weird, but like they kind of all look to him as the man who stands up against the wrong. And Arthur's in this awesome position that is helping to keep Muggles safe and all this sort of stuff. And so now they look at Arthur and I think they're all a little bit more willing to be violent and have violent resistance because of it.
Yeah.
But then of course Hagrid comes in and it'd be interesting to hear Irvin's take on why Hagrid is the worst in this moment. Because he does the responsible thing, like you were saying, Sierra.
Yeah.
Yeah, he breaks up the fight between two grown men. It kind of sends everybody on their way.
Holds them both up like scruffed animals to the side and say, whose dads are these?
Yeah.
Well, it has to be Hagrid in some ways, right? Because who else could do it without someone really getting in trouble?
Yes.
And Hagrid's the one that could both physically dominate them, and he's not going to, like, snitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gilderoy, I think, is thinking, how do I obliviate the whole crowd so that I can tell everybody that I did this?
Yeah.
Well, he has to spin it as two guys fighting over the last copy of the book.
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah, but I mean, not only does he like break up the fight, but then he's like reasoning with Arthur. But I found the phrasing of his reasoning to be a little odd. So I'm not sure if this is, another like early bookism or whatever, but he says like, no Malfoy's worth listening to. How many Malfoys does he know?
Yeah.
Because to our knowledge, there's only the 3. And like, maybe he knew Abraxas.
Yeah. Seems like he...
back in the day. It doesn't seem like this is like a big family, no matter like how long the lineage has been. So like, the fact that he says like, no Malfoy is worth listening to, it just seems like, he's known a lot of Malfoys other than literally the 2 that are standing in front of him. So, unless he's literally just being like, look, I had to tell your kids last year not to worry about Draco, so now I gotta tell you, adult, not to worry about the adult Malfoy. It does seem odd, like just that phrasing. So I just was kind of like, how many Malfoys do
we know from...
Well, he knows all of them, right?
I mean, yeah, so he definitely will have been around with Abraxas in some way, shape, or form, and he knows Lucius, and he knows that a lot of Death Eaters were friends with Lucius. Or people that went on to be Death Eaters were friends with Lucius. So he's got that. But also, I do wonder, we know from Lupin that, Umbridge has a reputation with the werewolf community. And I do wonder how much Hagrid has come against some Malfoy-led legislation, or the history of legislation of Malfoy influence around half-giant people. Mm. So again, that's all speculation and headcanon.
Maybe.
Just to be clear. But, like, it's possible that the reputation of that family proceeds. You're welcome, Aurelia.
I can add to the headcanon this time. Malfoy's also on the board of
education.
Hogwarts, so
so it would.
So maybe the other teachers and Dumbledore are sometimes complaining about him.
About him.
Well, and also it may be that his leadership of the board might have tried to get him fired from the groundskeeper because he's half giant.
Yeah.
It also could have been kind of like a inherited position on the board where like a Malfoy has held a position on the board for
I just hear
centuries
that.
Or something.
A Malfoy has been on the board of Hogwarts since Salazar Slytherin appointed us. That's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could just be,
It could be that he's talking about them as a class, he's almost saying like none of those rich people who think
that's fascinating.
They're in charge.
Yeah. Using it almost like as a term for mudblood, except it's the Malfoys. Those people.
Yeah.
Right.
An othering
like
term.
A catch-all term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No person like Malfoy is worth listening to. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start using that with Sierra. No person like Sierra is worth listening to about fan fiction.
I talked to Sierra about fanfiction.
Except, and many people should. Except the only problem with that is there's a mountain range in the United States called the Sierras, and so I think that would be very confusing very quickly. Why are the mountains not worth listening to?
Okay.
Because it's the hills that are alive with the sound of music.
Oh my gosh. I, for some reason, just knew. As soon as you said because, I was like, oh no. Sound of Music. They're going to sue us. The hills that are alive, not the mountains. Goodness gracious. Go to Austria. Come on.
Oh, man.
Anyways.
Yes.
But
Austria, not Australia. Justice for Hermione's
transitioned.
parents.
Smooth. And not ruined at all by me pointing it out.
No. I'm holding out hope that we'll get a casting announcement for them, for the HBO show, because, getting to see them for 0.2 seconds as they're being obliviated was such a horrible moment.
No, they show them in Chamber Secrets. We see them for 2 seconds in Chamber and then 2 seconds in Deathly Hallows.
Okay, whatever. 4 seconds. It does not.
It's double the time that you were saying, Sierra. It's double. Anyways, you were saying.
But anyway, I think, like, them having this whole thing of coming to Diagon Alley, seeing, like, kind of an additional moment of wonder, getting to hear them and Arthur talk, I think it would be nice.
I hope it's Steve
to get
Martin.
Just a little bit more of that.
I hope it's Steve Martin because he played a dentist in Little Shop of Horrors back in the 80s.
I know. He's too old, but
he could still be virile.
That
virile? How do you say that word? Anyways.
Virile.
Yeah, he could still be.
No, but I'm not saying, I guess we don't know how old her parents
Correct.
are, but
Haha, I've won. He played a dentist once in a musical, and now he gets to be her dad.
And so you want him to do it again?
Yeah, it could be him and Selena Gomez.
No.
As the parents.
Oh, God.
I'll just add the note that I thought it was maybe a little bit weird that they're portrayed as shaking and afraid because of the Malfoy interaction. I don't think they would have really known enough about Lucius or his money to even be intimidated by someone just saying you're keeping bad company, Arthur.
Unless that's their very... I mean,
well, aren't they shaken by the fight?
I think it's the fight that sort of shakes them. But I think in terms of physically being shaken, that's a weird description to me. I think I think they certainly, if that's their first interaction with, like, wait, some people don't like Muggleborns? Because I don't know that Hermione would have necessarily told them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says that they're watching apprehensively, like, before the actual fight breaks out, and I feel like that's valid because, like, you can get the vibe that, like, tensions are high, something could happen, they're clearly insulting each other, and, like, they're in the way of them leaving, too. So I feel like that's totally fine, and then afterwards, they're shaking with fright. And I think, well, honestly, part of it could be the fight, but also part of it could just be Hagrid.
Yeah,
right,
that's
the
true.
giant.
The giant who comes in.
Like, a giant came in and broke up a brawl between two
Oh, right,
grown
and then
men.
you find out that he's the groundskeeper.
But
Yeah.
they did see the giant bringing the
They
kid,
saw him when he dropped Harry
Yeah.
off, yeah.
who he also picked up at the scruff and just
And
walked
dragged
around
in, absolutely. Well, good. And that brings us to the end of our episode. So hopefully we get a casting announcement for the parents, and it's Steve Martin, Martin Sheen, and Selena Gomez just living, and Hermione just has 3 parents. That'd be great. Go watch Only Murders in the Building, everybody. Our chapter is not sponsored by Only Murders in the Building.
Is this why Hermione's like, I can't do this podcasting crime solving thing anymore.
Yeah.
I just need to let me go to the burrow. It's fine. I'm good.
I can't do this anymore. Yes, correct. I can't be around all these murders in these buildings. I want to be around the almost murders.
I gotta go to a place that has more murders.
less murders
And
this
more
year.
buildings.
I need more. I need more murders and more buildings. Excellent. It's a real shame that the 8th season of Only Murders in the Building ends by her moving them to Australia and obliviating them. Very Gilderoy Lockhart. At least she learned one thing from him. Okay. But the Only Murders in the Building is not what sponsored this episode. In fact, this episode was sponsored by flesh-eating slug repellent. Something everybody needs because that's terrifying.
Yes, absolutely.
Wouldn't that just be, like, leeches?
No, I feel like flesh-eating slugs is like...
Essentially.
Because leeches suck out the blood, they don't eat the flesh.
Yeah. Okay, fine. But they could.
If you didn't move,
Yeah.
if you held still long enough.
Isn't it? They, feels very much like the Malfoys to have a flesh-eating slug dungeon for house elves that do things wrong. So, terrifying.
Hey, Irvin, what's playing on the pub's jukebox today?
Well, hello everyone. This is not Irvin. Instead, this is Sam. Irvin's not here today, but he did include something on the jukebox. It's called Brawl at Flourish Blotts by, you guessed it, Draco and the Malfoys. Please have a great listen.
to the wizarding name. The company you keep is so lame. It's a brawl at Flourish and Blotts. It's a brawl at Flourish and Blotts. My dad and Arthur Weasley tied up in knots. It's a brawl at Flourish and Blotts. It's a brawl at Flourish and Blotts. It's a brawl at Flourish and Blotts.
And a huge thank you for today's guest at our pub and visiting us at the Three Broomsticks. Thank you, Alice.
Yes, thank you so much.
It was a delight to talk with you all.
Oh, it was great having you.
And we offer this opportunity to everyone who joins us in the pub. Is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything you want to shout out where people can follow you? Or are you off the grid?
I'm pretty under the radar. No, but it's been great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And I hope your drinks were very nice and today's special was to your liking.
A lot of fun.
Awesome. If you enjoyed your time at the pub today, please rate and review us online or tell your friends about the show. Rate and review helps us get into the algorithms that we need in order to get to other like-minded Harry Potter fans. And of course, word of mouth helps us a huge amount. Speaking of help, a huge thanks again to Laura Young, who bought us this round of drinks today at the Three Broomsticks. Thank you. Thank you. If you, dear listener, would like to buy us the next round, head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks. That's with the numeral 3 to sign up.
If you want to find us online, we are on various different social media channels, which are all linked on our website and in the show notes. Do you want chains of emojis that make you think? Do you want to know what's coming up during the month? Come see us there. You can also visit our website at 3broomstickspod.com. That is with the 3 spelled out. Submit a topic. Let us know your thoughts and generally connect with us.
Yes, please. We love hearing from you guys. It's always great to get comments on social media or on the website. The next time that we're on the Three Broomsticks, we will be discussing a crossover between Downton Abbey and the Dame Maggie Smith's, I think, last movie, and the late Dame Maggie Smith, last movie, and Harry Potter. Please join us then. With
the only thing I know about Downton Abbey is What is a Weekend? And,
what is a weekend? It's great.
Which is a Maggie Smith gift that I use quite a lot.
Listen, Minerva McGonagall would have no patience for Lady... what's her name? Downton. But anyways, her character, the matriarch of that family, the two characters would not get along at all. And with that being said, I have been Sam Williams.
I've been Oreo.
And I've been Sierra. Thank you for listening, and see you next time at the Three Broomsticks.
Cheers indeed. Cheers always.
Give me big old bottles of butterbeer.
Is it bottles?
No.
Buckets, right?
Wait, isn't it buckets?
Yeah,
I always...
And then it's barrels?
I freestyled.
I thought I was singing it wrong the whole time.
Barrels of butterbeer.
Give me big old buckets of butterbeer. Give me big old barrels of butterbeer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butterbeer.
This episode of The Three Broomsticks was edited by Brittany Fisher. The theme song was written and performed by the Faithful Sidekicks. Make sure to check them out at thefaithfulsidekicks.com.
And Brittany, this is the section where you would raise a toast. But as this was going to be recorded in late July, and we were recording it in mid-June, episode 64 has not yet come out. Therefore, there are no comments on it. As much as I would love to make up a comment, we cannot. So
we raise a toast to absent-minded Raven.
Yeah, for real. Oh my gosh.
Who said, I just really disbelieved that death.
Today's chapter summary is brought to you by moi. Harry at the Burrow is... Oh, dang it. Sorry, Brittany, let me start over. Is Harry's at... Okay, here we go. Number 4 equals malnourishment. The Burrow equals forced helpings at every meal. Number 4 equals...
Fourth forced helpings, isn't it?
Forced fourth helpings, you're correct. Let me restart.
Since it works nice with number 4 and then...
Correct.
Anyway.
Alright, so picking up right after number 4, Privet Drive, Brittany.
Sorry, I have the first point. I just took a note down
You
on
do.
the doc. Sorry.
The good discussion, y'all. Alright, that was giving you the buckets of butterbeer.
Money to fix things? Buddy. Well then.
Baby wrangling, baby wrangling. Sorry.
Yes, indeed. Oh, goodness gracious, sorry. I'm currently baby spraying new things.
Yeah, but then I'm like, we're already having Brittany stitch in the other part later. I don't know how hard we want to make it for Brittany. Like, I feel like Patrick gave us one job, and it was like, be nice and easy with Brittany, and we have not once done it.
Okay. Well, then let's just, I'll say, well, Erwin's not here today, but what he has included is blah, 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 blah. And then we can go from there.
Let's do it that way.
Brittany,
yeah, cool.
we're very sorry. Okay.
No, I
Buckets,
doubt
bottles,
it.
barrels? Does it go in increasing
No.
order?
Stop it, you. With your crazy
A
ideas.
brand?
Give me a dragon spleen of butterbeer.
Oh, we've done so many bloopers today.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording
Oh my
on
gosh, yeah.
the
Yeah,
Don't feel the need to include them all.
Audacity. Okay, stopping.